There were many small holes on it, as if it had been eroded by the wind. He infused it with magic power, and the animal bone immediately emitted thick black smoke, shrouding the surrounding area. In the smoke, it was difficult for Lu Li to sense what was going on here. What was more, it was all illusions. Sacred Ancestor Yuan and the others began to set up the place. It was dark all around, so there was no difference if there was smoke or not. As expected, Lu Li did not notice. He was thinking about how to solve the situation. Also, psychic power could not be used here, and the mark of Tao could not reach far. Therefore, Lu Li did not go out of his way to check. It was pitch black. They had released smoke over there, so Lu Li couldn't see what was going on over there. Blood Fairy was studying the divine glyphs as well. She did not go out to check. Soon, 5 days passed. Sacred Ancestor Yuan and the others were successful. They looked at each other, excited. Then, the 4 sacred ancestors began to move. They approached the sacred mountain quickly. As the 4 sacred ancestors approached, Lu Li finally realized something. The sacred mountain was strong, and the 4 sacred ancestors might not be able to crack it. That being said, Lu Li could not afford to be careless. He could not let the 4 sacred ancestors get close. Therefore, he told Blood Fairy to fly the sacred mountain into the distance at once. As the sacred mountain flew away, the 4 sacred ancestors went after it. They were putting on a show to force Lu Li to keep running. In that case, the sacred mountain would eventually pass by where they built the Blood Demon Formation. The sacred mountain could not fly too fast here. Therefore, the sacred ancestors could catch up with it. Lu Li wanted to see if he could use the sacred mountain to knock the sacred ancestors into the swirl in space. Of course, it did not work. The sacred ancestors turned into shadows, and the sacred mountain could pass through them. After several attempts, Lu Li had to give up. He could not let the sacred ancestors come closer. He had to fly the sacred mountain away. However, there was a mysterious force field here. No matter where the sacred mountain went, it would end up in a circle. Therefore, after more than 2 hours, Lu Li inevitably passed by the place where the Blood Demon's formation was set up. Sacred Ancestor Yuan's eyes glowed. He shot out a line of blood from his middle finger. A huge blood net appeared in front of them. Oh no! Lu Li was taken aback when he saw the blood net. The blood net did not cover half of the sky. It had formed a sphere that covered the entire sacred mountain. The blood net was not large, only with a radius of 1 mile. The sacred mountain, on the other hand, had a radius of 100 feet. It was like a bird trapped in a cage. Lu Li felt he had fallen into a trap. The Blood Demon Formation must have been built some time ago. Sacred Ancestor Yuan must have done it to deal with him. Buzzing. To Lu Li's horror, the Blood Demon Formation was still moving. It was shrinking and shrinking. Lu Li made a prompt decision and said, "Blood Fairy, make the sacred mountain bigger. The bigger, the better." Buzzing. Soon, the sacred mountain was larger than the entire Blood Demon Formation. However, as soon as it touched the blood net, the sacred mountain could not move or expand any further. At the moment, the sacred mountain was tied up like a meat dumpling. It could not move at all. Whoosh, whoosh. The 4 sacred ancestors were nervous. Their faces were solemn. Blood kept coming out from their hands. This was the most critical moment. If they could not trap the sacred mountain, then all their efforts would be in vain. Okay. The 4 sacred ancestors were overjoyed to see that the sacred mountain was trembling but could not break the blood net. As long as they could trap the sacred mountain, the rest would be easy. Sacred Ancestor Yuan could find a way to send in a strand of his spirit to kill Lu Li. Once Lu Li was dead, everything would be settled. Hang in there. After waiting for a moment, Sacred Ancestor Yuan transmitted a message to the other 3 sacred ancestors. A shadow appeared between his eyebrows. Although blood was still spurting out of his hand, his eyes had already lost their luster and became empty. Spirit. This was Sacred Ancestor Yuan's unique method of attack. It was a powerful soul attack, the last resort for Sacred Ancestor Yuan to save his life. This spirit contained half of Sacred Ancestor Yuan's soul energy. If the spirit was destroyed, Sacred Ancestor Yuan would be seriously injured. He could not recover without 100 years. The sacred mountain was strong. Sacred Ancestor Guang's soul attack did not work. Sacred Ancestor Yuan had no other choice but to take the risk. This time, he swore to kill Lu Li. Please remember the domain name of this book. Third Sect Leaders Mobile Version. Chapter 3001. Master, something has entered the sacred mountain. As soon as Sacred Ancestor Yuan's soul entered the sacred mountain, Blood Fairy sensed it and sent a message to Lu Li. Lu Li was still sitting in the pond. He was taken aback when he heard the message. Try your best to stop it. Do not let it get close to me. You be careful as well. It didn't matter what methods or tricks the four divine ancestors used. Their ultimate goal was either to kill him or to kill Blood Fairy. Otherwise, given the defense of the sacred mountain, the four sacred ancestors could only watch helplessly from the outside. Master, it is coming toward you, Blood Fairy added. This is a strand of soul energy very strong. The shield of the pond may not be able to withstand it. You must be careful. Lu Li was taken aback. He used a trace of Tao to check. Indeed, a strand of energy was coming from the sacred mountain. Soon, it had reached the pond. Splash, splash, the water in the pond surged, forming waves that surrounded Lu Li. This was the strongest defense Blood Fairy could muster. If this could not stop the energy, then she would not know what to do. Whoosh! That strand of energy entered the pond. What shocked Lu Li and Blood Fairy was that the energy was moving toward Lu Li through the waves. Although the energy was constantly weakening, the rate of weakening was very slow. The sacred ancestor Guang had also unleashed a soul attack earlier, but had only managed to advance a short distance before its energy was completely depleted. How could the energy be so strong? Of course, the energy was strong. This was sacred ancestor Yuan's soul energy, half of his. How could not be strong? Sacred ancestor Yuan was shocked as well. He could feel his soul energy was slipping away. He had only moved forward for a few thousand feet, but he had already consumed half of his soul energy. Even if he could kill Lu Li, he would suffer a great loss. Forget it. Lu Li must die. Sacred ancestor Yuan bellowed to himself. He would kill Lu Li even if his soul would be destroyed. He controlled the soul essence to rush forward, forcing its way through the layers of waves. Lu Li wanted to run away, but apart from the pond, nowhere else was safe. He prayed to himself, and at the same time, he was ready to attack the energy and destroy it at all times. 100 zhong, 500 zhong, 300 zhong, 10 zhong. The energy that was about to fly over was clearly much weaker, at least by half. At that moment, Lu Li made a move as well. He took out the divine chains of order and struck at them. The god sequence chains flew through the middle of the energy. That energy was soul energy, and physical attacks were useless. Lu Li had to resort to soul attacks. He released wind soul skills, trying to offset the energy of this soul attack with his own soul attack. Strands of soul energy turned into thousands of gusts of wind and flew towards that strand of energy. Lu Li's soul attacks were strong, but in front of this spirit, it was like comparing an elephant to an ant, a mantis trying to stop a chariot. Lu Li's wind spirit skills were all destroyed easily, but it did consume some energy of the soul attack. When the soul attack was about 10 feet away from Lu Li, swords of soul flew out from between his eyebrows one after another. 6 swords of soul struck at the strand of energy. Lu Li had prepared for this a long time ago. Unfortunately, he was pressed for time, so he could only make 6 swords of soul. The difference between the soul sword and the wind soul technique was huge. The upper Yuan divine ancestor could feel the difference. How come this punk's soul attacks are so strong? Sacred ancestor Yuan was taken aback. He had a bad feeling. Maybe his spirit was going to be destroyed this time. That was his average spirit. Once his spirit was destroyed, he would not even be able to move his fingers for the next 100 years, let alone fight. Fight! Sacred ancestor Yuan shouted to himself. The sacred mountain was more important than anything else. As long as he could get the sacred mountain back, he would be willing to die here, let alone destroy his spirit. The spirit and the swords of soul bumped into each other. The sword were destroyed, but the spirit was getting weaker and weaker. In the end, after 6 swords of soul were destroyed, there was only 30% of the soul energy left in the spirit. This is enough, Sacred Ancestor Yuan shouted to himself. The spirit rushed into Lu Li's mind. He wanted to see how Lu Li could survive his most powerful soul attack. This must be Sacred Ancestor Yuan's soul attack. It is so strong. Lu Li was terrified. Even the strong defense of the Heaven Pond could not stop the spirit. He had released so many soul attacks, but the spirit was still so strong. What could he do? Could he rely on his dragon soul? Soul-devouring skill. Lu Li was not willing to let his soul be destroyed. He tried his best to resist. The dragon soul glowed. Lu Li released the soul-devouring skill and used the soul-devouring bead. This was Soul Jade King's treasure. It was a pity that it was broken. Could it withstand the attack of the spirit? The soul-devouring skill was not strong in itself, but Lu Li's soul was strong. Therefore, the soul-devouring skill was powerful. Many beasts formed from soul energy swarmed toward the spirit. A firefly wants to compete with the moon. A voice sounded in Lu Li's mind. The spirit contained half of Sacred Ancestor Yuan's soul energy, which meant that half of Sacred Ancestor Yuan's soul was in Lu Li's mind. It was easy for him to send a message. Many demonic souls surrounded the spirit, but they were destroyed easily under the attack of the spirit. They could not stop the spirit from moving forward. Buzzing, the golden soul-devouring bead appeared, which frightened Sacred Ancestor Yuan. But when his spirit found that the soul-devouring bead was broken, he laughed and said, "This is Soul Jade King's soul-devouring bead, right? It is broken? Ha! What is the use of this same artifact? Can it absorb my spirit? Dream on. Lu Li, go to hell." The spirit rushed over. The soul-devouring bead flew over, but could not absorb it. As for the dragon's soul, it dimmed down after the spirit went over. It is too strong. I cannot stop it. Lu Li felt the spirit was like a ferocious tiger, and his means were more like lambs. A flock of lambs trying to stop the tiger. It was ridiculous no matter how one looked at it. There is no other way. I cannot stop it. My soul is about to collapse. Lu Li was shocked, but at this critical moment he was very calm. He tried to think of a way. All of a sudden, he remembered something that happened not long ago. Purple divine liquid. Let's try it. Desperate. Lu Li had no other way. He put his mind on the drop of purple divine liquid in the realm of Dharma. The purple divine liquid floated out and surged into his soul. When the purple divine liquid entered Lu Li's soul, it melted away quickly. Then at that moment, Lu Li felt his soul was about to explode. He was like a child whose muscles were swelling up. He felt he could not stand the horrifying energy inside. What is this? Sacred Ancestor Yuan was also shocked. At this moment, he felt Lu Li's soul was at least 10,000 times stronger. Originally, Lu Li's soul was far weaker than his. But now, he felt Lu Li's soul was 10 times stronger. No, seeing Lu Li condensing many soul swords to stab at his spirit, Sacred Ancestor Yuan let out a cry of unwillingness and despair. Boom! Sacred Ancestor Yuan's spirit was destroyed. At the same time, he opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. His body trembled violently, and then he passed out and fell to the ground. Please remember this book's domain name. Third Sect Leaders Mobile Version. Chapter 3002. What? The other 3 sacred ancestors were shocked to see Sacred Ancestor Yuan pass out. And at that moment, the sacred mountain started shaking nonstop, and it continued to expand. The Blood Demon formation was set up by Sacred Ancestor Yuan, and they were only supporting him. Sacred Ancestor Yuan was the main force. Now that Sacred Ancestor Yuan was unconscious, they could not hold on any longer. They all spat out blood and were sent flying. Boom! The Blood Demon formation collapsed, and the sacred mountain flew away. The faces of the 3 divine ancestors darkened, but they still flew toward Divine Ancestor Yuan to check on him. Sacred Ancestor Yuan was in bad shape. His spirit was destroyed, and his soul was seriously injured. He could not fight for 100 years. It would take him many years to wake up. Sacred Ancestor Yuan had always been the most powerful warrior in the demonic abyss and the backbone. Now that he was down, the other 3 sacred ancestors panicked and did not know what to do. They did not know how to take down the sacred mountain. The whole situation was a mess. What should we do? Sacred Ancestor Guang and Sacred Ancestor Yun looked at Sacred Ancestor Tian. Sacred Ancestor Yuan was unconscious, so they could only count on Sacred Ancestor Tian. How about, Sacred Ancestor Yin said fiercely, how about we lead an army to kill all the humans at the third heaven and capture Lu Li's people? Let's see if he will hand over the sacred mountain. If he doesn't, we will kill his people one by one. That's pointless. Sacred Ancestor Tian shook his head. Lu Li has been demonized and has almost lost his humanity. He has become selfish and thinks only of himself. He does not care about the lives of others. What if we kill all the humans at the third heaven? What if we anger our superiors? Don't be rash and don't panic. Lu Li cannot escape now and can only be trapped in the Demon Valley. We can take our time to figure out a way. There is always hope. Sacred Ancestor Yuan will recover in 100 years. 100 years will pass quickly. Divine Ancestor Tian took out a spatial artifact and put Divine Ancestor Yuan inside. Then he went in and gave him some medicinal pills to heal his wounds. After a while, he came out, sat cross-legged, and said, "Let's heal first. We must not lose our footing." The other 2 divine ancestors sat on the ground to heal their wounds. They believed that Lu Li would not dare to come out and attack them. As for how Divine Ancestor Yuan's soul was destroyed, they did not think it was Lu Li's fault. They all thought that it was because of the runes in the sacred mountain. To them, Lu Li was just a warrior that had just reached the Emperor realm. How strong could he be? As a matter of fact, Lu Li himself couldn't believe it. How could his soul be so powerful in that instant? Lu Li felt he could kill an Asmodean lord with soul attacks. Unfortunately, that state only lasted for a moment. In the time for 1 or 2 breaths, Lu Li's soul returned to normal, and he was extremely weak. He also almost fainted, but in the end, he barely managed to hold on. This purple god liquid is too strong. After resting for more than 2 hours, Lu Li finally recovered. His face was filled with excitement. The purple divine liquid was more powerful than he had imagined. It was a pity that there was so little of it. Not even 1 drop was left. Even if all of the purple mist was condensed, there would only be 3 or 4 drops of divine liquid left. In other words, he still had 3 or 4 chances to increase his combat power and 3 or 4 chances to save his life. Wait, on second thought, Lu Li remembered that he had the sacred mountain. The pond could recover slowly. In 100 years, it could be fully recovered. By then, he could absorb it again and produce another 3 or 4 drops of divine liquid. This is still too little. 3 or 4 drops in 100 years was not enough. It would be perfect if he could produce it continuously and use it at will. His combat ability would be improved by leaps and bounds. Even though it was a small amount, Lu Li was still happy. How could he not be happy to have another way to save his life? He rested for more than 2 hours and stopped thinking about this. Instead, he was thinking about how to leave this place. If he didn't leave this place, sooner or later, something would go wrong. When Sacred Ancestor Yuan recovered, how could he survive next time? Even if he happened to have the purple divine liquid next time, and he could survive, how many times could he survive? How many drops of purple divine liquid did he have? Therefore, he had to figure out a way out. After much deliberation, Lu Li believed the solution should be in the spatial swirls. After a couple of hours, he decided to take the risk. He planned to fly the sacred mountain into the spatial swirls. Maybe he could go to another world through the spatial swirls. No matter which world he went to, it would be good to leave this place. Buzzing. The sacred mountain glowed and shrank to a radius of 10 feet. Lu Li flew the sacred mountain into a spatial swirl. The three sacred ancestors were tending to their wounds, but they had been keeping an eye on their surroundings. After the sacred mountain flew over, the fluctuation in space caught their attention. The three sacred ancestors flew over at once to see what Lu Li was up to. By the time they arrived, they saw that Lu Li had flown the sacred mountain into a spatial swirl. The three sacred ancestors were taken aback for a moment. Then they were taken aback. They had never been to those spatial swirls because the strangling force in them was strong. They could stand it, but they could not stay in there forever. Therefore, they did not know what was in the spatial swirls. The defense of the sacred mountain was strong, much stronger than theirs. What if the spatial swirls were connected to another world? Didn't Lu Li run away easily? Would the sacred mountain disappear forever? Wait a minute. Sacred ancestor Tian raised his hand to stop the other two sacred ancestors from moving. He closed his eyes to sense the situation in the spatial swirls. He could feel that the strangling force in the spatial swirls was attacking the sacred mountain. The fluctuation was obvious. As time went on, the fluctuation became weaker. Sacred ancestor Tian was panicking. Did Lu Li fly the sacred mountain away from the spatial swirls? That would be a big problem. What? After the time for one incense stick to burn, sacred ancestor Tian felt the fluctuation was getting stronger. Not long afterward, a ray of golden light shot out. The sacred mountain flew out. Ha ha ha! Sacred ancestor Tian laughed and said, Lu Li, stop struggling. This spatial swirl is a dead end. You cannot get out. Lu Li did not pay attention to sacred ancestor Tian. He flew the sacred mountain toward the next spatial swirl. That spatial swirl was indeed a dead end. After a while, there was no way out. The sacred mountain crashed into it and bounced back. The second spatial swirl was the same. There was no way out. The inside was sealed. But he did not give up. He tried one spatial swirl after another. After all, the sacred mountain was strong. The strangling force in the spatial swirls could not destroy the sacred mountain. The third spatial swirl, the 10th spatial swirl, the 18th spatial swirl. When Lu Li entered a super large spatial swirl, he suddenly realized that the bottom of the spatial swirl was not sealed. There was a smaller spatial swirl inside. Is there a way out? Lu Li was delighted. He did not fly the sacred mountain over because he realized that the space inside the smaller spatial swirl was unstable. The spatial swirl was shaking violently. He was afraid that he might be shaken out and be strangled to death. Wait. Lu Li thought about it and decided to wait. When the Dharma realm produced another drop of purple divine liquid, he would try again. Please remember the original domain name of this book. Third Sect Leaders Mobile Version. Chapter 3003. After more than half a month, a drop of purple divine liquid finally appeared in Lu Li's lost sphere. Once again, Lu Li controlled the sacred mountain to enter the swirl in space. He is going in again? The three sacred ancestors were surprised. Lu Li came out and then went in again after more than half a month. Was there a passageway in there? Get ready, sacred ancestor Tian shouted. If something went wrong, he would rush in with the other two sacred ancestors. No matter how dangerous it was, they would have to try. They could not afford to lose the sacred mountain. They would not give up even if they had to chase Lu Li to the ends of the world. From a swirl in space came a constant tremor. Then, the tremor died down and then disappeared. Sacred ancestor Tian was worried. He made up his mind and said, "Let's go in." Lu Li's strange behavior had caught sacred ancestor Tian's attention. Lu Li was acting so strangely that sacred ancestor Tian had to take it seriously. Sacred ancestor Tian had to go in now. If Lu Li escaped, they would lose the sacred mountain forever. Inside, Lu Li had entered the small vortex. This small vortex had a stronger strangulation force. More importantly, the space was unstable and constantly shaking. Lu Li was trembling in fear. He was in the pond, but he did not feel safe either. He could sense the space was unstable as well. He could be shaken out at any time. Lu Li was nervous. The sacred mountain was moving slowly in the spatial tunnel. After the time for one incense stick to burn, The space was shaking violently. Luli stopped the sacred mountain after some thoughts. However, the space was shaking and the sacred mountain was moving in that direction involuntarily. Oh no! Luli was taken aback. At once, he released Dragon Wrestler, Heaven Armor, Dragon Transformation, and Armor of Origin Energy. As soon as he did so, he was shaken out. Crack, crack, crack! From all sides, invisible forces were moving toward Luli. The Armor of Origin Energy on Luli's body cracked, and his scales were crushed. Without any hesitation, the purple divine liquid from the Lost Sphere emerged in his body. The purple divine liquid spread out. Then, Luli felt his body was strengthened thousands of times. "Let's go," Luli said to Blood Fairy. He dashed forward in a blur at a horrifying speed. How fast was he? In the blink of an eye, he had traveled tens of thousands of miles, and he saw a pitch-black hole. "There is an exit." Luli was overjoyed. He sped up. During this period of time, countless spatial strangulation forces had been acting on his body. However, his current physical body was too strong, and it couldn't hurt him at all. Ha ha ha! When Luli dashed out, he found himself in an endless void. He raised his head and laughed. As long as he got out of the endless void, he would be like a dragon returning to the sea. Those demon ancestors would be dreaming if they wanted to catch up to him. PFFF. In the next second, his body trembled, and he coughed up a mouthful of blood. The power of the purple, godly liquid had disappeared, and his body felt as if it had been heavily injured. All of his energy had been sucked out, and at that moment, he felt as if he couldn't even move a finger. "Shio!" From behind Luli came a noise. Then, the sacred mountain flew out. Luli was delighted to see that Blood Fairy had come out with the sacred mountain. Luli was weak at the moment. Without the protection of the sacred mountain, he would be in grave danger. Buzzing, the sacred mountain glowed, and Luli was sucked in. He landed on the pond. Luli could not stand it any longer. He fainted after he sent a message. "Blood Fairy, fly the sacred mountain forward. Don't go too fast. If the sacred ancestors catch up, keep them at a distance and don't let them get close. Also, don't go anywhere else. Just fly and avoid. If you run into strange places, don't go." With that said, Luli fell to the ground above the pond and passed out. Blood Fairy obeyed him. She flew forward at a moderate speed. Whoosh! Half an incense stick of time after the holy mountain had flown away, 3 figures flew out. All 3 of them were covered in blood. Sacred Ancestor Guang had lost half his head and an arm, and Sacred Ancestor Yun's back was so badly mangled that his bones could be seen. Their faces were extremely pale, and their bodies were trembling. The 3 sacred ancestors had risked their lives. Otherwise, they would not have been able to get out of the swirl in space. When they came out, they saw that the surroundings were empty. The 3 of them were even paler. "Over there!" Sacred Ancestor Tian shouted. He was determined. Seeing that the other 2 were confused, Sacred Ancestor Tian said, "I have an avatar in a statue in the sacred mountain. I can track it to the sacred mountain. Should we go after them? Will something happen to the abyss?" Sacred Ancestor Yun asked. Sacred Ancestor Tian rolled his eyes. "What else can happen? What can be more important than the sacred mountain?" Sacred Ancestor Yun was worried that humans would come back and kill their way into the Asmodean's abyss. On second thought, Sacred Ancestor Yun believed that humans did not have the courage. Sacred Ancestor Tian was right. Nothing was more important than the sacred mountain. If they could not take back the sacred mountain, it was only a matter of time before the Asmodean's abyss was destroyed. The 3 sacred ancestors and Sacred Ancestor Yuan, who was in Sacred Ancestor Tian's spatial artifact, went after the sacred mountain. Just now, Sacred Ancestor Yuan was knocked out. If it were not for Sacred Ancestor Tian's protection, Sacred Ancestor Yuan would have died. The void was dark, but compared to the Asmodean's valley, there was some light. Occasionally, there would be some turbulence in space that would light up the sky. In the distance, some stars could be faintly seen, mysterious and far away. Soon, the 3 sacred ancestors disappeared into the void. Everything was quiet again. Luli slept for 5 days before he woke up. When he woke up, he still felt very weak. The purple godly liquid was too strong. It was fine to use it on his soul, but it was too much for his body. His body could not bear it, which was why he was so weak. He closed his eyes and lay down for a while. Then he used psychic power to check. He was still in the void. The sacred mountain was flying at a moderate speed. What? He tried to sense. There was some fluctuation in the space behind him, and there were 3 of them. Blood Fairy, did the 3 old bastards follow us? He asked in a telepathic voice. Yes, Blood Fairy answered. They were about to catch up with us. I sped up a little bit and kept them on a leash. Well done. Luli nodded with approval. He wanted to keep the sacred ancestors hanging on and give them a glimmer of hope. Otherwise, they would not go back to the abyss of devils and would vent their anger on humans. By then, all of Lu Li's people would die. Although he had been demonized and his temperament had changed greatly, becoming selfish, evil, and bloodthirsty, his protectiveness towards the Lu clan had never changed. Maybe it was because he was not completely demonized and had not lost his humanity. Keep going. The further, the better. Change direction from time to time, Lu Li ordered. The sacred mountain was much faster than the sacred ancestors. Therefore, he was not worried that they would catch up. Lu Li wanted to lure the sacred ancestors away as far as possible. He wanted them to never go back to the abyss of devils and be lost in the void forever. Please remember the domain name of this book. Third Sect Leaders Mobile Version. Chapter 3004. The atmosphere in the Divinity was strange. The abyssal demon army retreated to the northern plains. They gave up on the northern plains. All the armies and powerful warriors went back to the holy daimon puppets. Scouts went to other continents and saw no warriors from the abyssal demon army. Not only the warriors, but also the scouts. Apart from the holy daimon puppets, there were no warriors from the abyssal demon army. The news was sent back to the Ziyang land. The humans here were overjoyed, but the higher-ups were not. They did not know what was going on in the abyssal demon or the holy daimon puppets. They did not know whether to advance or retreat. If they advanced, the migration would be troublesome. Nobody could tell when the abyssal demon army would come back. If they retreated, they would not be happy. The higher-ups never thought about counterattacking or driving the Asmodean army back. There were 4 Asmodean lords in the Asmodean. They could not win, no matter what, unless Lu Li could kill the 4 Asmodean lords. Was that possible? It was just a thought. The fact that Lu Li could stir up trouble in the holy daimon puppets and draw back the abyssal demon army was already surprising enough. If you're to count on him to kill a few demon ancestors, then it would be a little too much. Saint of Freedom was back. Immortal Tianzue went to the western Yuan land to take control of the relic, but he had been gone for a long time without any news. Immortal Tianzue was recognized as the best in the 3rd plane of sacred runes. If he could not solve it, then nobody could get the relic. Daoist Master Tianzue sent an order back, telling this side to be patient, but to send more scouts to investigate the situation. Saint of Freedom was of the same mind. He ordered that apart from the scouts, no one was allowed to leave the Ziyang land. They were to stay put. No chaos was allowed. Everyone was to cultivate. Anyone who made trouble would be killed. The higher-ups of the 3rd plane were waiting. For one thing, they wanted to see if there was any definite news from the abyssal demon. For another, they wanted to wait for Immortal Tianzue to take control of the relic. If something was wrong in the abyssal demon army, then they could counterattack and drive the abyssal demon army back. They did not dare to move now. As a matter of fact, if they were to counterattack, Divine Ancestor Kong alone could not stop them. Even if he wanted to go back and call for reinforcements, the 4 sacred ancestors were all in the boundless void. However, they didn't dare to move because it would take time for the Saint Devil Puppet to attack. They were afraid that the other demon ancestors would come, and at that time, it would cause a huge battle and the human race's side might be completely wiped out. What Saint Emperor Xiaoyao looked forward to the most was that holy item. The protective shield released by the stone box outside, the holy item, had easily withstood the attacks of the 4 saint ancestors for so long. How powerful would the holy item inside be? Having reached the status of the unfettered Saint Emperor, he vaguely knew some things. Back then, when the worlds above the fourth heaven collapsed, countless experts descended to the third heaven. Those experts had heaven-defying methods and unimaginable abilities. This sacred object was definitely brought down by a heaven-defying expert from above. It was terrifyingly powerful. After another month or so, Perfected Tianzui sent a message back. He sent a message to the unfettered Saint Emperor, saying that the divine patterns on this stone box were too powerful and mysterious. He did not have the confidence to break it open. Even if he could, he would need at least a few hundred years. Several hundred years. When Saint Emperor Xiaoyao received the news, he was very worried. Most importantly, Perfected Tianzui might not be able to refine it in a few hundred years. Therefore, he was in a dilemma. If he counterattacked, he had no confidence and might infuriate the Devil Abyss. If he didn't counterattack, should he just wait for death? Perfected Tianzui's message also meant that he couldn't make up his mind and didn't know if he should counterattack or continue to refine that holy item. Wait for another 10 years. After Saint Emperor Xiaoyao discussed with a group of Thearch-level experts, they decided to wait for another 10 years. If the Devil Abyss was still the same after 10 years, it meant that there was a huge problem in the Devil Abyss, and it was a problem that couldn't be solved. Otherwise, they wouldn't have waited for so long. It was a known fact that the Devil Ancestors were very eager to get that holy item. Saint Emperor Xiaoyao sent a message to Perfected Tianzui, and he agreed. He would stay in the underground palace to decipher the divine patterns for 10 years. If he couldn't decipher the stone box after 10 years, they would come out and counterattack together. After the agreement was made, the upper echelons of the human race were relieved. Many Thearch-level experts started to seclude themselves and cultivated in peace. Countless Thearch-level experts spread out and stabilized the situation on the human race's side. There was no telling how many humans were living in the small land of Ziyang. There were no resources and no living space. The atmosphere was depressing. It wouldn't be a problem in the short term, but in the long term, there would be trouble. If the small troubles were not suppressed, they could develop into big ones. Once the situation became chaotic, hundreds of millions of people would die. The Lu family was quite lively recently. As far as many families were concerned, Lu Li's abilities must have improved since he could stir up trouble in the Devil Abyss. Otherwise, he would have been killed by the Devil Ancestors. It had been such a long time, and those Devil Ancestors hadn't come back yet. Did it mean that they couldn't do anything to Lu Li? Lu Li must be strong if he could make the Devil Ancestors helpless. One could even say that he was ridiculously strong. Such a powerful warrior had not been demonized. When he came back, he would become one of the masters of the third heaven. Building a good relationship with the Lu family would be beneficial in the future. More importantly, many powerful warriors of the third heaven had died in battle. Many families have been wiped out. The structure of the third heaven was broken. If Lu Li could really conquer the third heaven, then the territories would be divided again. Who was going to decide how the territories of the factions would be divided? Of course, it would be immortal Tianzui, Saint Emperor of Freedom, and Lu Li. The former two would care about Lu Li's attitude. Lu Li would become important. If they could build a good relationship with the Lu family, Lu Li wouldn't say anything when territories were divided. Recently, disciples of the Lu family were in high demand. Young ladies of the Lu family were also in demand. There was an endless stream of marriage proposals. As long as one was a disciple of the Lu family and had the surname of Lu, even a second tribulation divine god, several families would come to propose marriage. Enlure was the most popular candidate. As Lu Li's apprentice, she was the closest person to Lu Li. The most important thing was that Enlure had completely grown into a beautiful girl with exquisite facial features and a graceful figure. She looked like an elf walking out of the jungle. Not only was she beautiful, but she was also talented. She had reached the peak of the fourth tribulation and would reach the fifth tribulation soon. When she grew up, there was a good chance that she could reach the Emperor realm, let alone the Saint Emperor. Marrying Enlure would be the same as marrying a warrior of the Emperor realm. Enlure was said to be the most beautiful girl in the world. Almost all the young masters of the major families had come to propose marriage, but Lu Ling turned them all down. And Lu Er also made it clear that she would not marry until Lu Li came back. Lu Ling turned down all the proposals. She didn't say yes to any of them. She only said that the human race was facing a crisis and they would talk about it after the crisis was over. Lu Ling knew very well that if Lu Li cannot come back, those families would break off the engagement even if they did agree to it. If Lu Li could come back safely, the Lu family disciples would not need to marry. Please remember the domain name of this book. Third Sect Leaders Mobile Version. Chapter 3005. In the endless void, a stone was flying at high speed with a faint golden light around it. Thousands of miles behind it, 3 figures were following closely behind it. The stone kept changing directions and even circling from time to time. The 3 people behind it had no choice but to follow suit. 3 months. Lu Li had been flying the holy mountain in the void for 3 months. He did not know how far he had gone or where he was now. He had asked Blood Fairy to fly around aimlessly in circles so that the 3 divine ancestors would get lost in the endless void. As a matter of fact, the 3 sacred ancestors were confused as well. They did not know where exactly they were. They had no recollection of the entrance to the Valley of Demons. If they were lucky, they could turn around and find it in half a year. If they were unlucky, they might not find it even after thousands of years. The 3 sacred ancestors felt embarrassed. They could not go after it or not. If they went after it, the holy mountain would be faster than them. Also, the energy of the mountain seemed to be endless. They might not be able to catch up with it even after tens of thousands of years. If they did not go after it, would they give up on the holy mountain? Without the holy mountain, they would all be sinners of the Asmodeans. How could they go back to the Asmodeans? Therefore, the 3 sacred ancestors had to bite the bullet and follow. They were waiting for sacred ancestor Yuan to wake up. Maybe he could find a way after he woke up. Lu Li's wounds had recovered. He had been in closed-door cultivation to study the soul skill taught by the Swan ancestor. He had made up his mind to fly in the endless void for a few years. He would take a detour with the 3 sacred ancestors so that they would not be able to find their way back. He told Blood Fairy to avoid places that were easily recognizable. The darker it was, the better. He was lost anyway, so it didn't matter how many places there were. He would fly for a few years before deciding. Lu Li had almost mastered the skill of Swan Master several times, but he was interrupted every time. This time, Lu Li planned to cultivate to the end. He would not stop until he mastered the skill. In the endless void, the word endless meant that it was boundless. Compared to the holy mountain, it was as small as a speck of dust. A speck of dust was floating around, inconspicuous. Time flew by. Soon a year had passed. Lu Li had been studying for a year, but he had not mastered the skill. He was stuck at the last step. He vaguely saw the sky outside, but it was covered by a layer of window paper. As long as he could break through this layer of window paper, he would have reached the great perfection stage. Later on, the 3 sacred ancestors grew dispirited. After following them for a year, they had lost all sense of direction and were completely lost. The 3 of them even had a feeling that even if they turned back now, they might not be able to find their way back. It was very likely that they would not be able to return to the abyss. Sacred Ancestor Yuan had not woken up yet. His soul had been destroyed, and the damage to his soul was too severe. It was estimated that he would not be able to wake up anytime soon. As Divine Ancestor Yuan did not wake up, the other 3 Divine Ancestors felt like they were without a leader. They did not know what to do and could only follow him numbly. All right, after another half a year, Lu Li opened his eyes. He was overjoyed. He had finally mastered the soul skill taught by the Swan ancestor. After comprehending for so many years, he had finally succeeded. How could he not be happy? Spirit Array Techniques. This was the name of the soul skill. As the name suggested, this was a kind of formation released by soul energy. The purpose was, of course, to attack the opponent's soul. More than 10,000 strands of soul energy would pour into the opponent's soul and set up a formation in it, putting the opponent's soul in a very profound illusion. Just like the soul tribulation, this skill was very profound. The stronger the soul of the caster, the more powerful the formation. Lu Li's soul was strong now. It had reached the later stage of the Emperor Realm. If he used the formation, the average Emperor Realm warriors would be trapped. By then, it would be much easier for Lu Li to kill the Emperor Realm warrior. If Lu Li thought of a possibility, if he used the purple divine liquid, his soul would be 10,000 times stronger. If he used the formation in this case, could he trap the soul of a Saint Emperor? Lu Li was excited at this thought. His desire for the purple divine liquid grew stronger. It was a pity that the purple divine liquid was too little. It would be great if he could have hundreds of drops of it. A man who was not content was like a snake trying to swallow an elephant. Lu Li exclaimed. Then he used psychic power to check the surroundings. He sensed something behind him. An idea popped up in his mind. Should he go to the sacred ancestors and have a try on the formation? After all, he was in the sacred mountain. The sacred ancestors could do nothing to him. Blood Fairy, turn around and go to those old guys. Lu Li gave an order. The sacred mountain turned around at once. It was fast, and soon, it was close to the 3 sacred ancestors. The 3 sacred ancestors had been following the sacred mountain numbly. Nothing had changed for over a year. Now that the sacred mountain suddenly turned around and flew back, the 3 sacred ancestors came to their senses. Buzzing. A gentle breeze came from the sacred mountain toward Sacred Ancestor Guang. Sacred Ancestor Guang was the weakest among them. Without using the purple divine liquid, it was only natural that Lu Li would target Sacred Ancestor Guang, who was the weakest. More than 10,000 strands of soul energy were released in a Sacred Ancestor Guang's head. The soul energy interweaved around Sacred Ancestor Guang's soul and formed a complicated and mysterious formation. From Sacred Ancestor Guang's soul surged out a surge of soul energy and began to strike at the formation Lu Li built. The other 2 sacred ancestors kept an eye on Sacred Ancestor Guang, and at the same time, they were on guard against Lu Li's sudden attack. 1 breath, 2 breaths at a time. The formation in Sacred Ancestor Guang's mind was broken. Lu Li was delighted. Even though it was only for the time of 2 breaths, Sacred Ancestor Asmodean's soul was much stronger than Lu Li's. It was impressive that Lu Li could trap Sacred Ancestor Guang for 2 breaths. This meant that the formation was strong enough to deal with average Emperor Realm warriors. It should be able to affect Sacred Ancestor Tian as well. Lu Li thought about it and used the formation again. This time, he was going to attack Sacred Ancestor Tian. He wanted to see how long Sacred Ancestor Tian could be trapped. The formation came into being in Sacred Ancestor Tian's mind. To Lu Li's disappointment, Sacred Ancestor Tian destroyed the formation as soon as it came into being. The formation did not even last for 1 breath. 2 drops of purple divine liquid had appeared in Lu Li's land of magic. The remaining purple smoke would condense into another drop. At this moment, Lu Li had an urge to use 1 drop of purple divine liquid to deal with Sacred Ancestor Tian. But Lu Li gave up on the idea. What if Sacred Ancestor Tian's soul was trapped? Could Lu Li kill Sacred Ancestor Tian? As soon as he went out, the other 2 sacred ancestors would kill him. It was better not to waste the purple divine liquid. Let's go. Lu Li told Blood Fairy to fly the mountain into the distance. He had mastered the formation and had been flying for over a year. It would be difficult for Sacred Ancestor Asmodean to go back. It was time for Lu Li to find a way out. It would be best if he could find a place where he could kill all the sacred ancestors. Then he could find a way back to the divinity. Chapter 3006. Lu Li and the others were determined to trick the sacred ancestors. Naturally, they began to pay attention to the surrounding terrain. At first, Lu Li told Blood Fairy to stay away from any strange places. Now they could go and find them. In the endless void, as long as they stayed away from the turbulence, they would be safe. In the endless void, there were many strange places. For example, there were black holes that could swallow up all the light nearby. There was also a boulder that seemed to be nothing special. However, When approached, the boulder would exert a strong suction force. Luli wanted to find a strange place. He flew quickly on the sacred mountain and used psychic power to check the surroundings. Soon, 2 months passed by. Finally, Luli found a place. It was a misty land, strange to look at. The white mist covered an area with a radius of millions of miles. Before Luli got close, he already felt his heart was pounding. He used psychic power to check. It was misty and cold. Even Luli felt his psychic power was frozen. Even from such a distance, he could feel his heart was pounding. It must be dangerous. Luli thought for a while and flew the sacred mountain over. At the same time, he used the trace of Tao to sense the situation. Well, this place is strange. The sacred mountain was 30 miles away from the white mist. Luli felt a strong chill. Even though he was in the sacred mountain, he was shivering and the coldness had reached his bones. He was 30 miles away and still in the sacred mountain. How cold would it be when he entered the white mist? It was unimaginable. Luli was alarmed. He walked around for a bit. When the 3 sacred ancestors came, he flew the sacred mountain into the white mist. What? The 3 sacred ancestors noticed something was wrong. They looked at each other, unsure if they should go in or not. Who could tell what was in there with a radius of millions of miles? What if there was a passageway? What if Luli had disappeared in there? Let's go in and have a look. Come out at once if something goes wrong. Sacred ancestor Tian shouted. If he did not go in and something happened, he would regret it for the rest of his life. That being said, the 3 sacred ancestors could look out for each other since they had 3 sacred ancestors. The 3 sacred ancestors flew in slowly. Before they got close, they had already felt the coldness. That bone-piercing chill caused even their powerful bodies to tremble. They hadn't even gotten close to it yet. How terrifying would the cold air be inside? The 3 sacred ancestors couldn't imagine it. Luli had disappeared into the clouds. Psychic power could not be used here. The 3 sacred ancestors had to make up their minds and go in. The chill is so terrifying. As soon as they came into contact with the white mist, the 3 sacred ancestors felt as if their bodies had been frozen solid. Ever since the 3 of them had become sacred ancestors, it had been many years since they had felt like this. Ordinary cold air couldn't freeze them at all. This cold air was even more terrifying than the cold air they had encountered. The cold air made their speed very slow, and their divine senses were restricted. They became blind and deaf inside, unable to sense anything. However, sacred ancestor Tian could sense the location of the holy mountain. Continue forward. The 3 sacred ancestors were getting more and more frozen, and their speed was getting slower and slower. They were getting a little hesitant. The closer they got to the central region, the more dangerous it felt. If they continued forward, would they be frozen and turned into 3 ice sculptures? Stay here forever. The holy mountain was right ahead of them. Sacred ancestor Tian made up his mind and pressed on. Armors made of black energy appeared over their bodies, but it was not effective against the cold air. They continued flying. After an incense stick's worth of time, they had traveled more than 5 kilometers. Then, sacred ancestor Tian waved his hand and said, "We can't go any further. If we do, we'll be frozen solid. The cold here is too terrifying. Let's fly around." Here, they felt their blood was frozen, and it was difficult for them to circulate the Asmodean energy. If they went any further, their souls would be frozen. By then, they would not be able to move, and they would be trapped here forever. They chose to go around instead of entering the central region. After all, Luli could not stay in there forever. Apart from the cold air, there should be nothing else here. Even though Luli was in the holy mountain, he would not be able to withstand the cold. Luli was frozen to the point that he could not move. But Blood Fairy could fly the holy mountain. She was flying slowly as well. She did not dare to go forward recklessly, lest Luli would freeze to death. What? He sensed that the 3 sacred ancestors were no longer coming after them. They had taken a detour. Luli was delighted. It seemed that the 3 sacred ancestors could not stand it anymore. Luli made up his mind at once. Blood Fairy, go behind them and find a way to knock them into the central region. Freeze them. Okay, the cold air here did not affect Blood Fairy. She flew the holy mountain away at once. She reached the back of the three sacred ancestors at the top of her speed. Buzzing, the holy mountain expanded to a radius of 300 miles. It smashed at the three sacred ancestors like a wall. The three sacred ancestors were slowed down by the cold. They were smashed by the holy mountain and were dragged into the central region. Oh no! Sacred Ancestor Tian turned into a shadow and dodged the attack. Sacred Ancestor Yun reacted quickly as well. He turned into a shadow and flew away. Only Sacred Ancestor Wang was slow. By the time he tried to turn into a shadow, he had already entered the central region. The holy mountain was so fast that he was frozen and could not move at all. Han Guang, Sacred Ancestor Tian yelled. His eyes were filled with rage. They did not dare to go into the central region. It would be difficult to save Sacred Ancestor Wang. If he could not come out, he would be trapped in there for the rest of his life. Of course, when Sacred Ancestor Yuan recovered, there might be a chance to save them. Whoosh! The holy mountain came back. It came behind them and then whooshed toward them, trying to knock them in. Unfortunately, the two sacred ancestors were prepared this time. They turned into shadows at once. Such a shame. Luli asked Blood Fairy to stop. He did not want to waste any more time. Now that Sacred Ancestor Tian was prepared, it would be hard for them to sneak up on them. That being said, it was good enough that they could kill a sacred ancestor. This time, they could kill one sacred ancestor. In the endless void, there were countless perilous places. As long as the two sacred ancestors could keep chasing after them, Luli would have a chance to kill all the sacred ancestors. Luli circled around the holy mountain toward the central region. Sacred Ancestor Guang was completely frozen. He had turned into an ice sculpture and his breaths were weak. Luli did not dare to come out. If he could, he would release several powerful attacks to let Sacred Ancestor Guang go deeper into the central region. He did not dare to move the holy mountain any further. If he did, he would be frozen as well. I will wait here. Luli had planned to leave as soon as he could. However, he decided to wait. He wanted to stop Sacred Ancestor Tian from saving Sacred Ancestor Guang. He wanted to see Sacred Ancestor Guang frozen to death. Please remember the domain name of this book. Third Sect Leaders Mobile Version. Chapter 3007. Naturally, Sacred Ancestor Tian and Sacred Ancestor Yun would try their best to save Sacred Ancestor Guang. They didn't think they could do it, but they had to try. They looked at each other and took actions. They each took out some ropes. If they could catch Sacred Ancestor Guang and pull him out, then there would still be hope. But would Luli give them a chance? Clearly, they would not. Luli grinned as the two sacred ancestors dashed in. He asked Blood Fairy to control the sacred mountain to go in. The two sacred ancestors were slow, but the holy mountain was fast. As soon as the two sacred ancestors showed up, Luli smashed the holy mountain so that they could not save Sacred Ancestor Guang. When the two sacred ancestors threw out the ropes and whips, Luli smashed the holy mountain to break the ropes and whips. The two sacred ancestors had been busy for a whole day, but to no avail. Not only did they fail to save Sacred Ancestor Guang, but they also almost lost their lives. Once, Sacred Ancestor Yin almost fell into the mountain. Luli had been flying the holy mountain around. One of the sacred ancestors was worried sick. Though they could not use psychic power, they could tell that Sacred Ancestor Guang was getting weaker. Was he really going to be frozen to death? A frozen Asmodean lord? This might be the first case in the history of the Asmodean abyss. Not even the third heaven had a Saint Emperor frozen to death. Theoretically speaking, Sacred Ancestor Guang would not be frozen to death, even when the temperature was extremely cold. At worst, his soul would be in silence, and he would not be able to move his body. Of course, there was also the possibility that Sacred Ancestor Guang's soul would be frozen to death if the temperature was extremely cold. In that case, Sacred Ancestor Guang might die. That was what Sacred Ancestor Tian feared the most. Therefore, he tried everything to save Sacred Ancestor Guang. However, Luli was like a maggot in a tarsal bone. He was still wandering around. There was nothing they could do but watch. 2 days, 3 days, 5 days. Sacred Ancestor Tian and the other Sacred Ancestor Yun tried many ways, but Luli foiled all of them. Sacred Ancestor Guang was getting weaker and weaker. Luli had made up his mind to kill Sacred Ancestor Guang. He was a man who would repay kindness with kindness and enmity with enmity. After being demonized, his personality became even more tyrannical, so he naturally would not miss an opportunity. After another 3 days, Sacred Ancestor Guang's aura was completely gone. Sacred Ancestor Tian and Sacred Ancestor Yin were heartbroken. Their eyes were filled with rage as they stared at the sacred mountain with killing intent. But what could they do? They could only watch helplessly. If they were to take the risk, not only would they fail to save Sacred Ancestor Guang, but they would also be dragged into the matter as well. Luli did not leave. He decided to wait for a few more days until all the Sacred Ancestor Guang were dead. Another 6 days passed. Luli sensed no signs of life from Sacred Ancestor Guang. He was relieved and flew the sacred mountain into the distance. As soon as Luli left, the 2 sacred ancestors hurried to the core area to pull Sacred Ancestor Guang out. They found that Sacred Ancestor Guang was as hard as iron, and there was no breath of life coming from him. His soul was frozen and cracked. He must be dead. Sacred Ancestor Tian was unwilling to give up. He took out many divine medicines and fed them to Sacred Ancestor Guang, but all of them were useless. Sacred Ancestor Guang's soul had been shattered, and it seemed that it would be very difficult to save him. Wait, half a day later, Sacred Ancestor Tian sensed that Sacred Ancestor Guang's soul was weak, and there was a breath of life coming from his body as well. Good. Sacred Ancestor Tian was overjoyed. He helped Sacred Ancestor Guang heal himself at once. He asked Sacred Ancestor Yun to put Sacred Ancestor Guang into his interspatial ring and went on to the sacred mountain. Sacred Ancestor Tian treated Sacred Ancestor Guang for 10 days. Finally, Sacred Ancestor Guang had signs of life. That being said, the injury to his soul was too serious. It was really cracked. Injuries to the soul were the most difficult to recover from. It seemed that this was not an ordinary injury. It was still uncertain if Sacred Ancestor Guang could recover. If he could not, then he could become an idiot. Sacred Ancestor Tian treated Sacred Ancestor Guang for a few more days. Seeing that Sacred Ancestor Guang was stable, Sacred Ancestor Tian left. Sacred Ancestor Yun could not catch up with the sacred mountain. He had lost his way. Sacred Ancestor Tian went out and checked for a while. Then, Sacred Ancestor Yun went after Sacred Ancestor Tian. Luli did not move too fast. He was waiting for the 2 sacred ancestors to catch up. How could he rest assured if he could not kill the 2 sacred ancestors? Luli flew on, searching for more strange places. In the next few months, Luli wandered around, searching for strange places. In the following 3 months, Luli found more than a dozen strange places. There was a huge continent with all sorts of strange beasts on it. These beasts were of average strength, with the strongest being at the overlord level. They were not much of a threat to Saint Emperors. He also found a pit in midair with black flames in it. The flames were horrifying, but they could not harm Sacred Emperors. They could not burn the 2 sacred ancestors to death. The strangest place was a wind tunnel. Not only could the wind tunnel be used to strangle space, but it could also attack souls. Luli almost fell victim to it, but it was still useless to the sacred ancestors. The souls of the 2 sacred ancestors were too strong. Luli also found a ball of thunder. There was a huge ball in the void that could release horrifying thunderbolts. It was not powerful enough to hurt the 2 sacred ancestors. Sacred ancestors were so powerful that regular dangerous places could not threaten them. Therefore, it was difficult to find such a place. The 2 sacred ancestors were careful. Even if Luli entered a dangerous place, they would not go in. They would only wait outside, so that Luli could not do anything. Luli had no other choice but to keep searching. He did not know where he was now. He wandered around to see if he could find a good place. It was easy to get rid of the 2 sacred ancestors, but not to trap them. He wandered around aimlessly for another month. Suddenly, Lu Li's eyes glowed. He saw some palaces and pavilions in the void up ahead. Those palaces were surrounded by mystical aura. They looked like immortal palaces. Immortal palaces. Lu Li saw the illusion again. He knew the way back to the third heaven. At the very least, he could find it nearby. It was only a matter of time. The thing was, even if he found the way back, it would be pointless. If he dared to go back, the two sacred ancestors would follow him. By then, humans at the third heaven would suffer. Should I go to the immortal palace and have a look? An idea came to Lu Li's mind. Last time, he wanted to go back. But at that time, he was in a hurry to go home. He did not have the time nor the courage to do so. Now, he had the holy mountain, which was strong in defense. More importantly, there were two sacred ancestors behind him. If there were powerful warriors over there, it should not be a problem to kill the two sacred ancestors. Sacred Ancestor Yuan seemed to be with them. Sacred Ancestor Guang must be in their interspatial artifact even if he survived. In other words, if he could kill the four sacred ancestors, it would be worth it even if he died. Let's go to the Palace of Immortals. Lu Li was determined. The holy mountain flew toward the Palace of Immortals in a blur. Please remember the domain name of this book. Third Sect Leaders Mobile Version. Chapter 3008. The place Lu Li arrived at should be near the second one. This one was larger than the third one. Lu Li believed it was the second one. He was afraid to go in, but now he was looking forward to it. He flew in that direction, and the two sacred ancestors behind him also discovered the sea of stars in the distance, and also saw the mirage. The two sacred ancestors were taken aback. They knew about this sea of stars, and they knew how terrifying it was. Han Tian, do you want to go with us? Sacred Ancestor Yun was hesitating. He seemed to have remembered something and was panicking. Sacred Ancestor Tian made up his mind and said, "We must go. Given Lu Li's abilities, he can be killed in there. Once he is killed, our sacred mountain will be taken by powerful warriors over there. By then, it will be impossible to take it back." Seeing that Sacred Ancestor Yun was still hesitating, Sacred Ancestor Tian said, "The sacred mountain is the foundation of our race. Without it, we will lose hope. We will grow weaker and eventually die out. What is the point of living when our race is dying out? If we go, we may have a chance. That sea of stars is dangerous, but we still have a chance." Sacred Ancestor Yun nodded and said, "Let's go. If we cannot take back the sacred mountain, we will die there." The two sacred ancestors sped up and went after Lu Li. Since Sacred Ancestor Tian could sense where the sacred mountain was, Lu Li would not be able to escape. No matter where he went, they would be able to track him down. As long as the sacred mountain was not in the hands of powerful warriors, they still had hope. The sacred mountain was so far away. Lu Li could see the sea of stars from the distance. However, he had been flying for half a month, and yet he was nowhere near it. He felt it was still far away. The sacred mountain was moving at a slower speed, but it was still faster than an average Saint King, which was amazing. After flying for half a month, Lu Li could have reached the wind continent from the flying fire continent. How come he was still nowhere near that sea of stars? Is it an illusion? That sea of stars doesn't exist? Lu Li was uncertain. There were many strange things in the endless void. It was not unusual for some illusions to appear. Lu Li did not believe it. He flew the sacred mountain on. What happened next shocked him. After flying for another half a month, he felt the sea of stars was still so far away. He had never gotten closer. He, Sacred Ancestor Tian, and Sacred Ancestor Yun sneered. Lu Li did not know, but they did. There was a natural formation outside the sea of stars. If one did not know how to crack it, he or she would never be able to enter the sea of stars. Sacred Ancestor Yin rolled his eyes and said, "Should we guide him in?" Sacred Ancestor Yin thought it was impossible for them to catch up with Lu Li, so he might as well bring Lu Li in. There were many powerful warriors in there. Maybe they could have a chance to conquer the sacred mountain. No, Sacred Ancestor Tian shook his head and said, "Lu Li is not stupid. If we lead him on purpose, he may not go in. Let him find his own way." It would be better if we wander outside for a few decades and wait for Sacred Ancestor Yuan and Hongguang to wake up. All right. Sacred Ancestor Yin didn't say anything else and continued his pursuit. After a moment's thought, Sacred Ancestor Tian entered his spatial divine item to heal the two sacred ancestors. Another half a month passed. Finally, Luli felt something was not right. There was either a powerful formation here or the sea of stars was an illusion. Luli was lost in his thoughts. Several days later, he noticed something. In the void nearby, there was some vague mist. It was dark and the mist was faint. Luli did not notice it at first. The existence of the mist made Luli wonder if this was an illusion or not. Was the sea of stars an illusion created by the mist? That shouldn't be the case. Luli thought for a moment and continued to analyze and observe. After investigating for more than 10 days, he finally found some clues. Luli was not good at rune formations, but he knew something from what he had seen and heard. He could tell that something was wrong with the mist. There was something mysterious in it. Therefore, there must be some kind of formation in the mist. Luli told Blood Fairy. Blood Fairy thought about it and said, "Master, take a look around and tell me what you see." "I will take a look." Okay. Luli wandered around. He used the trace of Tao to sense around and told Blood Fairy what he saw. 5 or 6 days later, Blood Fairy said, "Okay, Master, this is enough. This is a formation of nature. I have a general idea. Let me study it." Okay. Luli was relieved. Blood Fairy's words meant everything was settled. He waited patiently for 7 days. Finally, Blood Fairy said, "Okay, Master, watch me. I will take you to crack this formation, and we will enter that sea of stars." Okay. Luli was looking forward to it. The Holy Mountain dashed forward. But this time it was different. The Holy Mountain was not moving in a straight line. Instead, it was moving in circles, round and round. He has seen through it. This young man is very skilled in rune formations. Sacred Ancestor Yin exclaimed. Back then, it took them hundreds of years to figure out the formation of rune formations here. How could Luli see through it in such a short time? One round, and then another. After a few hundred rounds, the mist in front of them actually became extremely thick, and the scenery was completely invisible. Most importantly, their divine sense was restricted here, and they couldn't detect anything. "Master, we are about to go out." Blood Fairy's words startled Luli. He was nervous. Could it be the real immortal realm? Would there be many powerful immortals? Would he be killed as soon as he came out? The Holy Mountain slowed down after passing through the thick mist. After traveling for thousands of miles, the view became clear. Luli stood on the pond and looked into the distance. He saw many huge stars. He could not tell how large those stars were. They were all covered up by the golden glow. He could not see what was inside. This was indeed a sea of stars. At a glance, there were at least tens of thousands of stars of different sizes. The distance between them did not seem very far from here, but it would take at least a few months to fly from the Sacred Mountain between two stars. The smallest star is probably as big as the third heavenly layer, right? Luli was shocked. He felt the smallest star was as large as the third heaven. Were there tens of thousands of universes larger than the third heaven? And all of these realms are connected into one? At this moment, Luli was afraid to go closer. There were so many universes. How many powerful warriors would there be? Maybe there were as many as the hairs on a cow. Would he be killed instantly if he went in? Whoosh! Saint Ancestor and Saint Ancestor Wang were catching up. Luli made up his mind and asked Blood Fairy to fly the Holy Mountain forward. Death was not a big deal. It would be worth it if he could kill those Saint Ancestors here. Please remember the domain name of this book. Third Sect Leaders Mobile Version. Chapter 3009. Even though Luli could see the stars, it took him 5 or 6 days to get close to one of them. He did not rush into the golden light around the stars. Instead, he flew around the stars slowly. He felt that those golden streams of light were very dangerous. If he were to approach them recklessly, he might be strangled to death. Luli flew around the golden light for more than a day without finding anything. The two sacred ancestors followed him from a distance and didn't rush in. They were not in a hurry. They were waiting for Lu Li to go in first. The golden light had a weak spot. They believed that Lu Li could find the entrance when he found the weak spot. Half a day later, Lu Li found an entrance. It seemed to be a weak spot. It shouldn't be difficult for him to go in. Lu Li didn't go in. He wandered around and found another entrance after half a day, but it was not as good as the first one. Lu Li thought about it and decided to go in from the previous entrance. Since he was here, he must have a try. Whether he could survive or not, he had to go in and have a look. Lu Li had made up his mind and didn't care about anything else. He made the sacred mountain the smallest it could be and slowly flew towards the golden stream. There was a small tunnel here that was meandering and extending inside. After the time for one incense stick to burn, Lu Li finally noticed that the world in front of him had changed. It had become a vast land. Down below was a boundless desert. Looking down, he could only see a boundless expanse. It really is a universe. Lu Li was shocked. He sensed that the Xian Qi in heaven and earth was more than 100 times richer than in the third plane. This world felt even more vast and boundless, even more ancient and vicissitudes. However, there were no palaces or buildings down there. Instead, it was a barren land. There was no sign of human habitation. It was desolate. Lu Li thought about it and flew the holy mountain downward at once. It would be troublesome if someone saw him. The sacred mountain flew down quickly and went underground. Lu Li checked around to make sure that there was no one around. Then, he went up to check. Not long afterward, Lu Li saw two black dots above him. Two sacred ancestors had come in. Lu Li was relieved to see that the two sacred ancestors were here. He flew the holy mountain to the distance. He could use psychic power here. He used psychic power to the limit to check everything around him. After flying for an hour, Lu Li didn't see any living beings. Not only were there no warriors, he didn't even see any beasts. Lu Li was doubtful. Was this really the immortal palace? Why was it even more desolate than the third heaven? After the time for one incense stick to burn, Lu Li finally found signs of human habitation. There were many people, or more precisely, humanoid monsters. Lu Li found a huge valley up ahead. There were teams of soldiers patrolling around the valley. The soldiers were the same size as humans, but a bit taller. The difference was that they had spikes on their backs and horns on their heads. Their foreheads were protruding, and most importantly, they had 4 arms. These strange people were all wearing cyan armor, holding a spear in one hand and a spear in the other. They were quickly patrolling the vicinity of the valley. The auras of these strange people weren't particularly strong. They were only at the 5th tribulation level, but all of them were at the peak of the 5th tribulation level. The captains were all lords. There were about 1,000 of them, and they looked like the guards guarding this valley. Very strong. Lu Li was taken aback. All the sergeants were at the peak of the 5th calamity, and the team leader was a lord. In that case, the commander would be at the Emperor realm. The expert was definitely a Saint Emperor. Did that mean that there were many Saint Emperors of this strange race? Lu Li circled around, but didn't do anything rash. He sneaked around and went to other places to check. 4 armed race. Not long after Lu Li left, Sacred Ancestor Tian and Sacred Ancestor Yun came over. They took a look and felt bitter. Sacred Ancestor Tian said, "The 4 armed race ranks among the top 30 of the 10,000 races. Is this their territory? If our sacred mountain is in the hands of the 4 armed race, we will never be able to take it down." Luckily, that punk didn't do anything rash. Sacred Ancestor Yin exhaled and said, if he had gone on a killing spree and incurred the wrath of the 4 armed race, he would not have escaped death. Come on, let's go. If he is being hunted down by the powerful warriors here, we will seize the chance to take the sacred mountain and leave. Sacred Ancestor Tian waved his hand, his expression serious. The 4 armed race was too powerful, and they had never thought of fighting back. According to the information they had obtained many years ago, the 4 armed race was ranked 28th among the races and was an extremely powerful race. Of course, it had been so many years. Whether the 4 armed race had become stronger or weaker, they could not say for sure. Anyhow, A starving camel was still bigger than a horse. Even if the four-armed race had declined, they were still not a race they could provoke. Once they were targeted by the four-armed race, they would not be able to run away. Luli continued his search. After half a day, he found another valley. Outside the valley, there were also teams of four-armed warriors. The weakest among them was at the peak of the fifth tribulation realm. All of them were powerful. Fortunately, the sacred mountain didn't leak any energy. If the sacred mountain didn't move, it would be no different from a rock. Therefore, it was easy for Luli to search. The four-armed race didn't notice him. Still, he didn't move. His goal was to kill those sacred ancestors, but it didn't mean that he wanted to court death. Team leaders were all lords. There must be many great Emperor realm warriors of this race, and many Saint Emperors. Luli might have the sacred mountain, but that didn't guarantee his safety. Luli kept on flying and exploring. After a day, he heard some noises ahead. Luli landed the sacred mountain at once. He told Blood Fairy to stop controlling the sacred mountain and turn it into a regular rock. Now, the sacred mountain had a radius of 10 feet. In the wild, it was no different from a rock. From a distance, a huge frigid iron battleship whooshed over. It was so fast. A moment ago, it was tens of thousands of miles away. In the blink of an eye, it had passed by Luli. So many powerful warriors. Luli didn't dare to check, but he sensed that there were at least 4 or 5 great Emperor Realm warriors on the battleship, all of them of the four-armed race. This battleship made of frigid iron was fast. It might be as fast as an average Saint Emperor. Where is this place? Luli was surprised. The four-armed race was so powerful that they were far stronger than the races of the third plane. Did the worlds above the fourth plane not collapse? Was this world, or this universe, actually the fourth plane? There were tens of thousands of worlds here. Did it mean that there were tens of thousands of powerful races? Luli felt this place was stronger than the endless ruins. Outside the Sea of Stars, Luli saw a mirage. There were many palaces. Where were they? If this was a powerful world in the universe, then were there immortals here? At this moment, Luli felt the world was boundless and there were too many secrets in it. Nobody could give Luli an answer. He had to keep on flying and exploring. Before he had a clear picture of the situation, he wouldn't move. Otherwise, he would lose his life here. Please remember the domain name of this book. Third Sect Leaders Mobile Version. Chapter 3010. 1.5 months. Luli had been in this strange world for 1.5 months. He had gathered a lot of information. The four-armed race was not the only race in this world. There were 2 other strange races. Of course, he had not explored all of them. So far, he had only found 3 races. The other 2 races were humanoid. One of them was tall and muscular, looking like small giants. Their bodies were covered in black scales, and even their faces were covered in tiny black scales. Their eyes were green, and they looked quite strange. The other race was similar to humans. At first glance, Luli would think they were humans. But on closer inspection, there were differences. This race had curved noses, pointy ears, thick lips, and protruding eyes. Their faces were almost square. Luli didn't see any round or oval faces. At first, Luli glanced over. All the races looked the same, as if they were made from the same mold. Four-armed race, dark armor race, and square-faced race. Luli gave the 3 races 3 names. Luli saw that the 3 races were all warriors, and each of them was guarding a place with resources and treasures. It had been more than a month, and Luli hadn't found a single city. Apart from the places with resources, he saw nothing else. Every now and then, he would see some winter iron battleships with powerful warriors on board. Luli had seen more than 40 Imperial Realm warriors. Saint Emperors had not been found yet. That being said, when Saint Emperors hid their chi and energy, they could not be sensed unless Luli was close. Luli was confused. The 2 Saint Emperors had been following him, but he didn't know how to kill them. He was not sure yet, so he didn't dare to attack recklessly. If a large group of Saint Emperors and Saint Emperors came out, he wouldn't even know how he died. Since he was not sure, he had to keep on exploring. After all, The Holy Mountain was safe. As long as he was not spotted by Saint Emperors, the average Saint Emperors would not be able to track him down. Lu Li's soul was strong now. He could sense even the slightest movement. More importantly, there were no warriors of the three races in the wild. Not even scouts had found him. Therefore, it was safe for him to fly in the wild. More than a month later, Lu Li finally found a city. It was a huge city, about the same size as the Celestial City in the Endless Ruins. Moreover, these buildings were all very tall. They were not the type of palaces or immortal palaces, but just ordinary castles. However, the style was different from that of the third layer of heaven. There were very complicated patterns and strange shapes on it. It looked quite exotic. What surprised Lu Li was that there were people from all three races in the city. They seemed to be living together. Lu Li sensed that there were at least hundreds of thousands of them in the city. For such a large city, a population of several 100,000 was pitifully small. Apart from this city, Lu Li didn't see any other cities or other strange places. Apart from the countless resources and treasures, this was the only city. Lu Li really didn't know what to do. Go into the city? He didn't have the guts. Attack a place with precious resources? There wasn't much point in doing so. What if they didn't go after sacred ancestor Tian and the others, but came after him instead? Whatever. Lu Li made up his mind and made up his mind. The races here were too strong for him to provoke. The longer he stayed here, the easier it would be for something to go wrong. After he attacked a place with precious resources, he would fly away at once. If worse came to worst, he would fly away from the star. When he was sure that the two sacred ancestors were here, he could find a way back to the third layer of heaven. Since he had made up his mind, Lu Li had to make some preparations. First of all, he had to choose a target. He thought about it and decided to go for the four-armed race. He felt this race was strong and had the most resources and treasures. Lu Li flew the Holy Mountain away. He chose a place not too far away from a city. It would take some time for the powerful warriors of the four-armed race to get here, but not too long. After choosing the place, Lu Li began to build something nearby. He didn't build anything too complicated, just a one-way teleportation formation. This teleportation formation could teleport people to a distance of millions of miles. After the teleportation formation would explode. Lu Li didn't want to leave any trace of where he went. Also, he wanted to mislead the four-armed race into thinking that it was the two sacred ancestors who attacked them. After making sure, Lu Li dashed out from his body and put away the Holy Mountain. Then, he dashed toward the valley like a sly fox. Outside the valley, there were nearly 1,000 warriors patrolling. All of them were at the peak of the fifth tribulation, and the leaders were three lords. But Lu Li sensed that they were not particularly powerful. Lu Li put on a disguise and put on some sackcloth. He was barefooted and his hair was dyed white. He took out a mask that could change his appearance at will. He changed his appearance to that of sacred ancestor Tian. Even though there was a difference, he could fool them. Move! Lu Li was only 3,000 miles away. He didn't need to hide anymore. He dashed over and arrived in an instant. He released the Wind Soul skill. Thousands of soul needles blew toward the hundreds of warriors in a gust of wind. The hundreds of four-armed race warriors hugged their heads and rolled around. Lu Li dashed over and took out a saber to cut at them. Boom! Lu Li's strength was overwhelming. Every time he moved, a warrior would be smashed into a pulp. Two lords came over. Lu Li released Swords of Soul twice, and the two lords rolled around in midair as well. Boom, 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 boom. Lu Li killed one at a time. In the time for a dozen breaths, the hundreds of warriors were all killed, including the two lords. Before Lu Li could finish, more and more four-armed race warriors rushed out from the distance and the valley. There was also a powerful warrior of the four-armed race, roaring. Formation. Lu Li ignored the rest of the warriors and the three lords. He released formation and attacked the powerful warrior of the four-armed race. This warrior of the four-armed race didn't seem to be particularly powerful. After the formation was released, he stopped moving in midair. Now that the four-armed race warrior was defeated, the rest were easier to deal with. Lu Li began his bloody slaughter. There were only more than 2,000 warriors in the valley, including the powerful ones. Luli cut through them like watermelons. After the time for one incense stick to burn, Luli had killed all the warriors of the four-armed race, including the powerful warrior of the four-armed race, apart from the one lord that Luli deliberately left alive. Time to go. Luli threw a glance to the powerful warrior of the four-armed race that was pretending to be dead. He flew to the distance and found the one-way teleportation formation he had built. An hour later, Sacred Ancestor Tion and Sacred Ancestor Yun arrived. When they saw the corpses strewn all over the valley, a bitter look appeared on their faces. Luli had taken action. The four-armed race would be enraged. They wondered if this was their chance. Or was this the beginning of their doom? If Luli was killed and the sacred mountain was taken away by the four-armed race, then they would be in trouble. Please remember the domain name of this book. Third Sect Leaders Mobile Version. The moment his aura spread out, the four-armed race scouts in the distance were immediately alerted. 7 or 8 scouts quickly flew over. Woo, woo, woo. 2 of the scouts flew into the air and saw the situation. They immediately let out a sharp cry, attracting the attention of the scouts from all directions. Sacred Ancestor Tion and Sacred Ancestor Yun snorted coldly, then turned into shadows and disappeared into thin air. Having lost track of the 2 sacred ancestors, the scouts naturally locked onto the flying sacred mountain up ahead. F***CK. These 2 old things are so cunning. Luli cursed when he noticed this. They alerted the scouts and then turned into shadows so that the scouts would think they were inside the sacred mountain. In this way, all the scouts' attention would be diverted to him. At this moment, Luli wanted to fly the sacred mountain to the sky. However, that would make him a bigger target and it would not be easy to find the exit. Luli gave up on the idea. Run! He sped up the sacred mountain. Since he had offended the four-armed race, he would not stay in their territory. He would go to another race's territory and stay there for a while. He would run when he had the chance. As soon as the Saint Mountain sped up, the scouts of the four-armed race were immediately dumbfounded. The Saint Mountain's speed hadn't reached its limit yet. It was only at the speed of a Saint Emperor. It immediately shot through the sky and disappeared into the northern horizon. The strange cries of the scouts were heard. The four-armed race had used a special method to transmit the situation here. Many scouts were on the move. The sacred mountain alerted the scouts of the four-armed race along the way. This time, the four-armed race had sent out many scouts, at least tens of thousands of them. The four-armed race was taking this matter seriously. How can there be so many four-armed race? Luli saw scouts of the four-armed race everywhere. He frowned. There were only hundreds of thousands of people in the city, and each of the 3 races had over 100,000. Did the four-armed race send out more than half of their warriors? Also, it had only been a few days. The scouts were all at the peak of the 5th tribulation, and they were not fast. How could they have spread out in such a short time? Luli did not have much time to think. An hour later, 2 frigid iron battleships whooshed over. Before they got close to the sacred mountain, thousands of warriors and 8 Saint Emperor Realm warriors came out. The four-armed race is strong. Luli sensed that 2 of the Saint Emperor Realm warriors were as strong as Emperor Candleheaven. The four-armed race had sent out warriors at the peak of the Saint Emperor Realm. The four-armed race had many Saint Emperors. Whoosh! Luli didn't get entangled with these emperors because he didn't want to expose the powerful defense of the sacred mountain. Otherwise, it would attract the attention of the four-armed race's Saint Emperor. At that time, it would attract the pursuit of some powerful Saint Emperors, which would make things even worse. Luli steered the sacred mountain to turn around and sped up again. Turning around would have taken some time, as the Saint Emperor Realm warriors were getting closer. However, when the sacred mountain sped up, the attacks from the Saint Emperor Realm warriors could not catch up. Whoosh! The sacred mountain made an arc and disappeared into the distant sky, leaving the Saint Emperor Realm warriors of the four-armed race looking at each other. One of the Saint Emperor Realm warriors thought for a moment and said, "I think we have to ask the patriarchs to take action." We cannot catch up with this strange treasure. The four-armed race spoke in the ancient language, similar to the language spoken at the abyss of demons and the endless ruins of gods. One of the four-armed race's horns lit up, an array of black light shot up to the sky. Buzzing. After a moment, the nearby space began to tremble and a blurry figure appeared. The four-armed race nearby all knelt down and shouted, "Greetings to the 13 patriarchs." What is going on? A cold and old voice rang out. The strongest Emperor powerhouse immediately reported what had happened. The 13 patriarchs thought for a moment and said, "I understand. Continue to control the warriors to track him and lock onto his position. Leave the rest to us. Whoever dares to kill a disciple of our race must die, no matter who he is. The dignity of the four-armed race must not be trampled on." Also, the 13 patriarchs paused and added, "There is more than one of them. There must be other experts. Spread out and report to me immediately if there is even the slightest movement. I will report this matter to the race headquarters. Soon, we will seal off the flying meteor star. None of these foreign races will be able to escape." Please remember this book's domain name. Third Sect Masters Mobile Version. Chapter 30:12. 17 Days. Luli had been on the run for 17 days. Along the way, he ran into many scouts, but no powerful warriors intercepted him. He had arrived at the territory of the square-faced race. Luli calmed down a bit. The powerful warriors of the four-armed race would not come here to hunt him down. Soon, he realized that he was overthinking. The square-faced race had sent out many scouts as well. As soon as he arrived, he saw many scouts. Moo! Luli thought for a while and decided to leave this universe. Now that the three races were on the move, there would be no place for him in this universe. If he didn't leave now, he would be trapped here forever. He flew the holy mountain up. When he was 30,000 miles up, the space suddenly trembled. Then, an old man of the four-armed race showed up. "Now that you are here, don't leave. Stay here." The old man of the four-armed race looked at the holy mountain coldly and said, he was speaking the ancient language so Luli could understand. Luli thought about it and said, "Lord, I broke in by mistake. I didn't kill your people. It was the two powerful warriors that were hunting me. Every debt has a debtor. If you want revenge, go to them. I'm not with them." "Oh." The old man was slightly startled and asked, "What race are those two from? Where are you from? Do you have any specific information about them? If you tell me honestly, I can let you live." "We are all from the Sacred Abyss race." Luli answered after some thoughts. "We are from the same race. Those two are our forefathers. I did something wrong in our race, and they are hunting me down. Lord, I am only at the Emperor realm. I don't have the ability to kill them, even if I wanted to." "Sacred Abyss race? Never heard of it." The old man shook his head and asked, "What else do you have to say? This information is not enough to trade for your life. If you have nothing else to say, then I will take action." "Yes," Luli said with determination. "The two forefathers must be nearby. They have been hunting me down. I am sure that they are within a radius of 300,000 miles. They can go invisible. It will be difficult for you to find them." With a thought, the old man swept his gaze downwards. His powerful divine will also swept downwards. Right at that moment, the holy mountain glowed and flew into the sky like a shooting star. Luli didn't expect the powerful warrior of the four-armed race to let him go. What Luli said just now was to distract the warrior so that he could seize the chance to escape. The speed of the sacred mountain was too fast. In the blink of an eye, it had reached the void. If it went any higher, it would be the golden circle. He quickly scanned the area with his spiritual will, trying to find a way out. Over there, his luck was pretty good. He actually found a weak spot nearby. He quickly controlled the sacred mountain and flew towards it. At this moment, a cracking sound rang out from behind. Following that, a huge arm reached out and grabbed at the sacred mountain. Luli sneered. He told Blood Fairy not to worry and flew on. The huge hand grabbed the holy mountain and tried to pull it back, but how could it shake the holy mountain with its strength? The holy mountain struggled free and quickly disappeared from the spatial gap, flying towards the endless void. Courting death. The patriarch of the four-armed race was enraged. He went after Lu Li at once. At the same time, he let out some shrill screams, and the other four-armed race warriors responded. Lu Li dashed out from the void through the weak spot in the space. Without hesitation, he flew out of the sea of stars. There were too many powerful warriors here. Lu Li's abilities were not enough. More importantly, he belonged to an alien race here. He could be tracked down easily. The Sacred Mountain was a treasure that could attract unwanted attention. Whoosh! In the distance, space began to tremble. Two cold steel battleships whooshed over like phantoms from a void. Seeing that the way ahead was blocked, Lu Li made up his mind and said to Blood Fairy, "Go as fast as you can and to the left." Buzzing, the Sacred Mountain glowed and then sped up to the extreme. It flew to the left in a straight line and soon vanished into the void. On the two battleships were the powerful warriors of the four-armed race. On each of the battleships was a Saint King, more than a dozen great emperors, and hundreds of lords. As the Sacred Mountain disappeared to the left, all the powerful warriors were taken aback. The Sacred Mountain was so fast, much faster than even their patriarchs. Treasure. Soon, the warriors' eyes glowed. The Sacred Mountain must be a treasure if it could move so fast. Everything else aside, the Sacred Mountain's speed alone made it a piece of treasure. Go after it. Send a message to the patriarchs outside. Let's stop it. A deep voice came from one of the warships. The two warships shook violently and then suddenly burrowed into the void. In the next second, they appeared 1,000,000 miles away, directly shuttling through the void, chasing after the Sacred Mountain. Lu Li flew to the left for another 300,000 miles. When he was about to turn and fly out of the sea of stars, he saw another battleship coming. Clearly, there was a Saint Ancestor on the battleship. SH*T. How many Saint Kings does the four-armed race have? Lu Li cursed. He made up his mind and told Blood Fairy to fly into the sea of stars. The outer perimeter was sealed off. It would be difficult to break out. Who would tell what kind of traps they had? Lu Li would have to go in. There were so many universes in there. Lu Li did not believe that all of them belonged to the four-armed race. The Sacred Mountain flew on quickly. This time, they were not intercepted. Lu Li didn't have time to worry. He asked Blood Fairy to fly the Sacred Mountain as fast as he could. The Sacred Mountain was fast. Even though the four-armed race battleships were traveling in the void, they could not catch up. In the blink of an eye, they lost track of Lu Li. Whoosh! 6 hours later, two people came out from the universe. It was Sacred Ancestor Tian and Sacred Ancestor Yun. They were still pale. Sacred Ancestor Yun's robe was torn, and his hair was unkempt. He was in a sorry state. When Sacred Ancestor Tian came out, he tried to check. He was even more upset. Pointing to the sea of stars, he said, "That bastard Lu Li is going in." Then what should we do? Sacred Ancestor Yun was panicking. Just now, the two of them ran into two patriarchs of the four-armed race. Though the two patriarchs were defeated, Sacred Ancestor Yun and Sacred Ancestor Yun were injured. The four-armed race was powerful. They must have many Saint Kings. If they stayed in the Sea of Stars, they might lose their lives here. What else can we do? Sacred Ancestor Tian made up his mind. We must go in. I think Sacred Ancestor Yuan is about to wake up. Let's go in and find a place to hide. When Sacred Ancestor Yuan wakes up, he may have a way. What is more, pointing to the Sea of Stars, Sacred Ancestor Tian said, "If we go this way, we may be caught up with. You know that it is easy to come in, but it is difficult to go out. If we're intercepted, we'll be dead for sure. Then let's go." Sacred Ancestor Yun glared at where Lu Li went. "If Lu Li falls into our hands, we will torture him for tens of thousands of years before we kill him. P.S. I have a cold and a headache. Only 2 chapters left today. Please remember the domain name of this book. Third Sect Leader's mobile version." Chapter 3013. In the endless void, a stone flew across the sky like a shooting star. Hundreds of thousands of miles behind the stone, several frigid steel warships were chasing after it. Not only behind, but there were frigid steel warships coming from 3 other directions as well. The four-armed race had mobilized many powerful warriors, not only for revenge, but also for the treasure, the Sacred Mountain. Behind them were Sacred Ancestor Tion and Sacred Ancestor Tion. They were also being chased by experts and armies. The four-armed race was also a powerful overlord race in this area. How could they not retaliate after being slapped in the face by a few foreign races? If word got out, it would be a huge blow to the reputation of the four-armed race. By then, every race could come and trample on them. It was a pity that after half a month, so many powerful warriors had failed to capture Lu Li. Sacred Ancestor Tion and Great Ancestor Yin were not captured, either. The 2 sacred ancestors could turn into shadows, and they were good at stealth. The powerful warriors of the four-armed race almost intercepted them several times, but they managed to escape in the end. Sacred Ancestor Tion was powerful. He ranked 2nd in the Asmodean's Abyss, and he had lived for hundreds of thousands of years. Naturally, he had many ways to protect himself. It was not easy to kill him. Lu Li was troubled after being chased for half a month. He had steered the Sacred Mountain as fast as he could, but every once in a while, a frigid steel warship would appear in front of him. Had the four-armed race sent out many powerful warriors to search for him, or could they still track him down? He could not get rid of the four-armed race. There was a huge star up ahead, but Lu Li was afraid to go in. What if there was a powerful race in there? What if this was the territory of the four-armed race? But if he did not go in, he would be a big target in the void. What if a powerful warrior of the four-armed race came out and trapped the Sacred Mountain? Years ago, Sacred Ancestor Yuan and the other 3 built a blood demon formation that trapped the Sacred Mountain. Therefore, if a powerful Saint Emperor of the four-armed race was here, Lu Li would not even be able to run away. Let's go in and have a look. Lu Li made up his mind and flew around the huge star. He would go in and have a look. If there were many powerful warriors in there, he could come out immediately. There were too many lice to be afraid of, so it didn't matter. 4 hours later, Lu Li found a weak spot in space. He flew the holy mountain in easily. As soon as he was in, he used psychic power to check. This realm was also desolate, with not a single city below. Lu Li explored for a while. Then, he flew the holy mountain down and began to move around. Lu Li didn't want to stay here. He just wanted to use this place to escape. He was very nervous on the road, paying attention to the situation around him. After searching for 2 hours, Lu Li found that there was only one strange race that occupied this place, and it was a race that was very similar to humans. The only difference was that they all had wings on their backs, and all of them were handsome. Their wings were all white, and they liked to wear white robes. They held white spears in their hands, and they all looked like heavenly soldiers and generals, looking very mighty and imposing. Lu Li tried his best to keep a low profile. He traveled in the wild, and he would leave at once at the slightest sign of trouble. He would stay away from any warriors. 3 days later, more than a dozen frigid iron warships gathered outside the realm. They had been searching for 3 days but found no trace of Lu Li. They all knew that Lu Li must have entered this realm. They didn't go in rashly. Instead, they gathered outside. The 8 patriarchs of the four-armed race gathered together to discuss a plan. According to our investigation, that holy abyss race must have entered the Rain Sun universe. One of the elders spoke. The other elders nodded slightly, all of them confirming this point of view. The other patriarchs were not happy. One of them said, "The Rain Sun universe is the territory of the Holy Rock race. They have never been on good terms with us. This is going to be troublesome. We have 2 options." Another patriarch said, "Either we sneak in, capture that punk, and leave at once, or we go to the Holy Rock race and pay a price to capture that punk. Negotiation is pointless." One of the patriarchs with the most profound energy said, "Last time, we already had a big conflict with the Holy Rock race. If we go to negotiate, the Holy Rock race will rip us off. I think we should sneak in. After all, there are not many powerful warriors here. We can go in, finish our job, and leave. Even if we are discovered, we can let the Holy Rock race make a scene." "Yes, I agree. We don't have to beg them. Begging them will only put us in their hands. The Holy Rock race is stronger than us, but we are not afraid of them. Sneak in. I agree. I don't think the punk will hide in there forever if we wait outside. How about we wait here for a couple of months and see if he comes out? Most of the patriarchs agreed to sneak in. In the end, the most powerful one decided that several of them would sneak in. They would come out as soon as they captured Luli. It wouldn't matter even if the Holy Rock race found out. After all, as long as they didn't kill warriors of the Holy Rock race, there wouldn't be a war. One of the 8 patriarchs stayed behind to patrol the area while the others sneaked in. They were good at tracking. Luli didn't dare to fly at full speed. Therefore, in just over a day, Luli had sensed that there were pursuers. Let's go. Without any hesitation, Luli flew the Holy Mountain at full speed. The Holy Mountain was so fast that Luli had lost the pursuers. There's a land of resources up ahead. After the time for several incense sticks to burn, Luli sensed that there were warriors of the Holy Rock race. He dashed out, generated a hand shadow, and smashed at the land of resources. Who dares to attack? How dare you? Many powerful warriors flew out from the land of resources. A warrior of the Great Emperor realm smashed Luli's hand shadow. However, by the time they looked around, Luli had run away. That warrior of the Great Emperor realm didn't see Luli, but he did notice several patriarchs of the four-armed race. Without any hesitation, he crushed a white token in his hand to send out a warning. Oh no, we are spotted. The 7 patriarchs were frightened. Unless they could kill all the warriors of the Holy Rock race in the valley, powerful warriors of the Holy Rock race would catch up soon. By then, there might be a fierce battle. After all, they were the ones sneaking into the territory of the Holy Rock race. What should we do? The patriarchs looked at the most powerful one, the 13. The latter made up his mind and said, "Burn your divine blood and go after him as fast as you can. Let's see if we can take the mountain before the powerful warriors of the Holy Rock race get here. If not, retreat as soon as the powerful warriors of the Holy Rock race come." Okay. The patriarchs' essence blood surged. Golden flames burst out from their bodies. Their energy became horrifying as well. The 7 patriarchs sped up and chased after Luli. They were as fast as the Holy Mountain. This was a special skill of the four-armed race. It was also the reason why the four-armed race could dominate the universe. After burning their spiritual blood, their abilities could be increased by 10 times for a short time. That being said, after an hour of fighting, their vitality would be sapped and they would need years to recover. Please remember the original domain name of this book. Third Sect Leaders Mobile Version. Chapter 3014. The 7 patriarchs sped up and went after Luli. They must have some kind of strange tracking method. In just over an hour, they had caught up with Luli. Luli's heart skipped a beat when he sensed the piercing sound and the powerful chi and blood behind him. How could these powerful warriors be so fast? How could one of them be faster than the Holy Mountain? Wasn't this a little too abnormal? Not even Sacred Ancestor Yuan could compete with the Holy Mountain. Well, they must have used some secret skill. Luli sensed the faint golden flames around them. His heart skipped a beat, but there was nothing he could do. He was no different from an ant to a group of Sacred Ancestor. Luli flew the Holy Mountain in a straight line in the sky. He didn't go around in circles. At the same time, he used psychic power to the extreme to see if there was any favorable terrain nearby that he could take advantage of. There is a city. After the time for dozens of breaths, Luli was surprised to see a big city in front of him. There were many warriors around the city. Okay. Without any hesitation, Luli made the Holy Mountain the smallest it could be and flew toward the city at the top of his speed. The warriors of the Holy Rock race were alarmed. More warriors flew up from the city, and many checked with psychic power. Whoosh! Soon, the 7 patriarchs caught up. To their surprise, it was a city. The patriarchs complained to themselves. There were not many powerful warriors in the city, but there were some patriarchs. Of course, they were not afraid. But did they have the courage to kill the patriarchs of the Holy Rock race? If they killed the patriarchs, a war would break out between the two races. Four-armed race? Bogang? A furious voice came from the city. Then, a powerful warrior flew up. He did not look at the holy mountain. Instead, he stared at the 13 patriarchs of the four-armed race. He glared at the 13 patriarchs and said, "How dare you come to the Rain-Yang realm? Are you trying to start a war with us?" Whoosh! The holy mountain went around the city and flew into the distance. However, none of the holy rock race stared at the holy mountain. Instead, they were all staring at the powerful warriors of the four-armed race. The Saint Mountain was isolated by divine runes, so they didn't detect that there were people inside. The speed of the Saint Mountain was also very fast. Before they could react, the experts from the four-armed race had already arrived. They were all attracted by the four-armed race's expert, and they were all furious. After all, this was the Rain-Sun realm, the holy rock race's territory. The great elders of the four-armed race groaned inwardly. They hadn't expected this to be a city. It would be very difficult for them to go around it. The experts of the holy rock race would definitely intercept them. Therefore, they only had two choices. Either they could kill all the holy rock race here and go after Lu Li. Otherwise, they could only retreat immediately and leave the Rain-Sun realm. Then, they would return and explain to the sacred rock race. Killing this group of people was very simple. There were only 4 senior elders here, and there were 7 of them. At this moment, they all released their innate divine abilities. If he wanted to kill these doyens and all the soldiers in the city, it wouldn't take long. The question is it worth it? For the sake of Lu Li, for the sake of a piece of treasure, they would fight against the holy rock race to the death. How many would die in this battle? How many experts would fall? Was it worth it? The 13 senior elders thought for a while. Eventually, they made up their minds and waved their hands. "Let's go." The group of powerful warriors flew to the sky. However, the powerful ones of the holy rock race all transformed into rocks and dashed toward the powerful warriors of the four-armed race. Piss off! The arms of the 13 senior elders lengthened and enlarged at the same time. They smashed at a powerful warrior of the holy rock race. That warrior was smashed down. He was covered in blood, but he survived. The 13 senior elders were strong, or else he wouldn't be ranked 13th. He had released the innate divine abilities of his race. He could defeat all the holy rock race warriors on the ground by himself. If he hadn't held back, that holy rock race warrior would have been smashed to death. Whoosh, whoosh, whoosh. Countless members of the sacred Peng race also unleashed their innate divine abilities. Their feathers transformed into sharp arrows that ruthlessly pierced toward the four-armed race. Because they were too fast, ear-piercing screeches rose and fell, shattering one's eardrums. One by one, the senior elders of the four-armed race snorted. Their arms lengthened and expanded. They smashed away the arrows. The powerful warriors of the four-armed race didn't stop. They flew up quickly and found a weak spot in the space. They dashed out and soon disappeared. "We will go after them. You report to your race at once." The injured Saint Rock race member who had been slapped down roared in anger. He charged upwards and out of the boundless void. All the holy rock race warriors were mad. Many flew up and some went to report. For a moment, nobody paid attention to Lu Li. But after a while, some holy rock race warriors came back to their senses. One of them said, "Didn't a stone fly here first? Where did it go?" "Yes." Another holy rock race warrior nodded. "That stone is fast. It must be a piece of treasure. Did the four-armed race release it? But it seems to have gone around the city. Send a team to look for it." A Lord-class expert thought for a moment, then gathered a few lieutenant commanders over and gave them instructions. Soon, hundreds of holy rock race warriors flew out and went after Lu Li. The holy mountain was fast. It was already millions of miles away. Lu Li thought about it and decided to take a detour to check. He was overjoyed to make sure that there were no pursuers. He thought about it and continued flying forward. If his guess was correct, the experts of the four-armed race and the experts with wings must have started fighting. If the two powerful races started fighting, then no one would chase after him. He would be safe for the time being. Of course, if he stayed in this place for too long, he would run into problems. There would be pursuers looking for him. Luli decided to stay here for 3 days and leave at once. As he flew, he was extremely careful along the way. Soon, 3 days passed. There were no pursuers. Without further hesitation, Luli flew the holy mountain to the sky. He left this place and checked the outside. To his surprise, there were no armies or powerful warriors of the four-armed race. He was overjoyed. He flew the holy mountain to the distance. Many battleships of the four-armed race were parked outside. However, the Holy Rock race was enraged, and many powerful warriors of their own race came. Therefore, all the warriors of the four-armed race were forced to leave. The powerful warriors of the Holy Rock race went after the four-armed race as well. There were no warriors nearby. Luli flew into the sea of stars. There must be powerful warriors of the four-armed race on the periphery. Only by going in could he survive. He was able to get out because of the Holy Rock race. If it weren't for this place, he would have died. As for what would happen if he went into the Sea of Stars, would he be able to leave the Sea of Stars alive? Luli wasn't sure, but he could only take it one step at a time. Please remember the domain name of this book. Third Sect Leaders Mobile Version. Chapter 30:15. Poor Sacred Ancestor Tian and Sacred Ancestor Yun had been chased by 4 Saint Kings of the four-armed race for more than a month. They ran into 2 universes, but one of them belonged to the four-armed race, and the other one was on good terms with the four-armed race. Therefore, it made no difference whether they ran or not. The 4 founding patriarchs of the four-armed race had chased them to the ends of the earth. If it weren't for the fact that Sacred Ancestor Tian was strong, they would have been killed. Luli pretended to be Sacred Ancestor Tian and attacked the four-armed race. He killed thousands of their warriors, and one of them was a warrior of the Great Emperor realm. Therefore, the four-armed race believed that the 2 sacred ancestors must be killed. As for why they went after Luli, it was because they wanted the treasure of the Holy Mountain. The 2 sacred ancestors were hiding in an abandoned universe. There was no golden glow around the universe. Instead, it was surrounded by black fog. There was no Reiki in the universe, only toxic gas. It was a dangerous place, but they had to come in or they would be killed by the powerful warriors of the four-armed race. Sacred Ancestor Tian felt his interspatial artifact was shaking. He took a look and was overjoyed. Sacred Ancestor Yuan had woken up. Sacred Ancestor Yuan was powerful. If it were Sacred Ancestor Tian, he wouldn't be able to wake up for 8 to 10 years. However, even though Sacred Ancestor Yuan had woken up, he was still very weak. Sacred Ancestor Tian told Sacred Ancestor Yun to be on guard. So he immediately flashed in and fed Sacred Ancestor Yuan some divine medicine to help his soul recover. Then, he told him about the recent situation. "You are in the infinite region?" Sacred Ancestor Yuan was pale. He raised his eyebrows and said, "There are dozens of major races and hundreds of smaller races in this galaxy. At least a dozen of the top 100 races in the endless world are here. This star field is very dangerous." "I know," Sacred Ancestor Tian sighed. "But what can we do? If we can't get the Holy Mountain back, our race will decline. We will die sooner or later, let alone rise. Therefore, Han Yun and I had to take the risk to come here. Yes, you did the right thing." Sacred Ancestor Yuan nodded and said with a bitter smile, "Unfortunately, I am so badly injured that I can't even move, let alone fight. Under normal circumstances, it will take me at least 100 years to recover. Unless what?" Divine Ancestor Tian's heart skipped a beat. Could it be that Divine Ancestor Yuan had another way? Sacred Ancestor Yuan pondered for a moment and said, "Unless you can take me to the Red Dragon Star and find the Red Dragon race." "Crimson Dragon race?" Divine Ancestor Tian frowned and said, "What's the point of finding the Red Dragon clan? Will they help us?" And the Yuan Divine Ancestor nodded and said, "There are some things you don't know." An ancestor of the clan once came to this star field and saved a member of the Red Dragon clan's royal family. If that member of the royal family didn't die, then it would be meaningful for us to go there. This race was ranked in the 60s among the 10,000 races and was also a super large race. We can ask them to heal me and help us hunt down Lu Li. Oh, Divine Ancestor Tian was overjoyed. That was a race ranked in the top 100. Although it was slightly weaker than the four-armed race, it was still a colossus in this star field. Are we going there now? Divine Ancestor Tian was very excited. He wanted to go and find the Red Dragon Star immediately. Divine Ancestor Yuan quickly stopped him. Don't rush. Let's stay here for a while. Let me recover first. I can't be a burden to you and give you some guidance. All right, then I'll go out and check out the situation outside. I'm afraid the four-armed race will catch up. Divine Ancestor Tian went out. Divine Ancestor Yuan sat cross-legged and began to heal. He couldn't fight for the next few years, but he could at least give them some pointers when he recovered. As the strongest martial artist in the Sacred Abyss, Divine Ancestor Yuan was much stronger than Divine Ancestor Tian in all aspects. Outside this dangerous place, a few elders of the four-armed race stayed outside. They didn't go in recklessly because Divine Ancestor Tian and Divine Ancestor Yuan were not weak, either. Divine Ancestor Tian was especially strong. They wanted to kill the two, but they didn't want both sides to suffer. Hence, they were waiting for the other formidable martial artist to come. 10 days later, Divine Ancestor Yuan sent a message. You can leave now. This is not a place to stay. Run as soon as possible. I can't fight now, but I can release some saint techniques and create some illusions to help you escape. All right. Divine Ancestor Tian was overjoyed. He knew very well that Divine Ancestor Yuan was proficient in countless saint techniques. Some small tricks might not be useful in a real battle, but they were very useful for escaping. The two of them sneaked in a dangerous place for a while before rushing outside. They turned into shadows and floated out like two wisps of wind. Although the two of them didn't seem to be moving, the four-armed race martial artists hiding nearby were immediately alerted. A few doyens immediately rushed over, but at this moment, a black cloud appeared in the sky. The black cloud covered the sky, and it seemed to contain countless terrifying existences. Terrifying killing intent emanated from the black cloud, causing the doyens of the four-armed race to turn pale with fright. Divine Ancestor Tian and Divine Ancestor Yin quickly fled. The black cloud was released by Divine Ancestor Yuan. It was a kind of saint technique that was specially used to scare people. Oh no, we've been tricked. After waiting for a while, the four-armed race martial artists came to their senses. The black cloud had gradually dissipated, and the terrifying aura within it had disappeared. They naturally came to their senses. The two divine ancestors were very fast. In such a short time, they had already escaped far away. It would be very difficult to catch up to them unless they released their race's innate magical powers. However, the innate magical powers of their race could only last for an hour. If they couldn't catch up to them in an hour, how could they chase after them? Recently, the Sacred Rock race had been looking for trouble with them. If the Sacred Rock race martial artists encountered them, they would be in danger. Therefore, they could only chase after them. At the same time, they sent a message to the martial artists of their race, asking them to intercept them. Divine Ancestor Tian and Divine Ancestor Yuan successfully escaped. Divine Ancestor Yuan then released two more secret techniques and created two fake bodies, which successfully led the pursuing martial artists away. That kid has escaped far, far away. Divine Ancestor Tian sensed and sent a message to Divine Ancestor Yuan, feeling a headache coming on. Divine Ancestor Yuan had released several sacred techniques. Healing his wounds for 10 days previously had been in vain. Now, he was extremely weak. He sighed and said, "It doesn't matter how far he escapes. As long as he isn't killed by the martial artists of the other major races, and as long as the Sacred Mountain doesn't fall into the hands of the other major races, it doesn't matter. As long as the Crimson Dragon King is still alive, there's hope for us to take back the Sacred Mountain." Yes, Divine Ancestor Tian also sighed. Now we have to pray that the kid is still alive. This time, one wrong step led to many wrong steps. I shouldn't have accepted his surrender. Even if he surrendered, I should have controlled him. I was too careless. What's the point of saying all this? Divine Ancestor Yuan shook his head. Back then, one of our divine ancestors left a prophecy. He said that this time, our race would either rise or fall forever. Perhaps this is a great calamity for our race. I hope we can get through this safely. Otherwise, we won't be able to face our ancestors after we die. Luli must die. We must take back the sacred mountain. Please remember this book's domain name. Third Sect Leaders Mobile Version. Chapter 3016. The star region of Infinite Star Region was bustling recently because two major races were fighting. The Holy Rock Race and the Four-Armed Race. Both races were powerful. They were well-known overlords in the star region of Infinite Star Region. They were not the most powerful race in the star region of Infinite Star Region, but they were among the top. The territories of the two races were close to each other. There had always been conflicts. Recently, several senior patriarchs of the Four-Armed Race went to the Rain-Sun universe of the Holy Rock Race. It was not a big deal for them to come here. However, there happened to be a bad-tempered warrior of the Holy Rock Race nearby. He hurried over as soon as he heard the news. It just so happened that the powerful warriors of the Four-Armed Race had used their special skills. The time was up. Therefore, the several senior patriarchs were very weak. The patriarch of the Holy Rock Race only wanted to take them down so that the Four-Armed Race could come and get them. He could take the chance to extort money from them. However, the senior patriarchs of the Four-Armed Race were not willing to be humiliated. They fought back with all their might. This angered the patriarch of the Holy Rock Race, who killed 13 of the Four-Armed Race's senior patriarchs. The death of the senior patriarchs meant that the matter could not be settled. Because of Lu Li and Holy Ancestor Yuan and Holy Ancestor Tian, the two races were at war. Many universes were at war. Flames of war rose everywhere. The Initiator and the other two Holy Ancestors had run away. The Four-Armed Race had no time to worry about them. The Holy Rock Race was pressuring them. Many universes were in a state of panic. They had no time to spare for Lu Li and the other two Holy Ancestors. Lu Li also noticed that the Void was in a mess. Many races were in the Void. Most of them were scouts. Occasionally, Lu Li could see some winter iron warships flying in the Void. Lu Li made the Holy Mountain the size of a fist. When it flew, there was only a faint glow. It was not eye-catching at all. Lu Li no longer used psychic power to check. He used a trace of Great Tao to sense the fluctuations in space. How far could psychic power go? Tens of thousands of miles at most. He could cover such a distance in an instant. Therefore, it was pointless. It was quiet in the Void. There was not even wind. If there was any fluctuation in space, it must be a sign that some warriors were coming. Therefore, when Lu Li used the Mark of Tao, he could even sense the tremors in space from a distance of 300,000 miles. When the Cold Steel warship was shuttling through space, the tremors were strong. Lu Li could sense it from a distance. With the mark of the Great Path and the incredible speed of the Sacred Mountain, Lu Li could be said to be like a fish in water in the endless void. None of the scouts were able to discover him. Perhaps those scouts did not intend to search for him in the first place and were not specifically looking for him. Lu Li had been floating in the void for more than 2 months. He was confused, not knowing where to go or what to do. If he cultivated, he wouldn't be able to settle down. If he didn't cultivate, his days would be miserable. He would be wandering around aimlessly. There were as many powerful beings as the clouds in this place. If he were to continue wandering around, it was inevitable that something would happen to him. I have to think of a way to get some information. Lu Li thought about it. He knew nothing about this region. He was wandering around like a headless fly. Therefore, he must have a clear understanding of the situation before he could make a plan. How were they going to get information? As long as they could capture a scout and interrogate him for information, everything else would be easy. Lu Li controlled the Holy Mountain to wander around. Along the way, he encountered many scouts, but he didn't dare to make a move before. After half a day, Lu Li found his target. It was a scout of the Four-Armed Race. Now that he had offended the Four-Armed Race, he must find a scout of the Four-Armed Race. He controlled the holy mountain to fly across the sky and instantly arrived near the scout. Then he released a spirit array technique and pulled the scout into the holy mountain in a flash. The scout was tough. Luli interrogated him for half a day and tried many methods. In the end, he used soul attacks to torture the four-armed race member to death before the scout was willing to talk. On their way to the holy mountain, Luli asked for more information. It took him an entire day to get a general idea of the situation in this region. Region of Infinite Star. This was the name of this star field. The information that this scout knew was only superficial. For example, how many powerful races were in this star field? Which race controlled which star field? Which races were on good terms with each other? Which races were hostile to each other? And so on. There are 33 powerful races in this region. All the races added up had a total of more than 360. Tens of thousands of universes were divided among more than 300 races. Only one universe was shared by all races. The Celestial Star. This realm was the largest one here, and all races could freely enter it. No fights were allowed in this universe. Any race that dared to do anything here would be attacked by the 33 races. This was an agreement made by the 33 races. Of the tens of thousands of universes, half were controlled by the 33 races, and the other half were controlled by the other 300 races. The smaller races would either attach themselves to the bigger races or form an alliance. Otherwise, there would be no space for them to survive. The most famous was the 5 alliances. The number of powerful warriors in each alliance could compete with a major race. The Wild Race. The Desolate Race was the strongest race in the Infinite region. One race could go up against a few large races. However, there were very few people in the Desolate Race, so they seldom caused trouble. However, once they were provoked, they would definitely suffer a crazy backlash. Below the Wild Race were the Holy Rock Race, the Four-Armed Race, the Red Dragon Race, and other major races. These races dominated a region and were not to be messed with in the region of Infinite Star. Luli was overjoyed when he got the information. Without any hesitation, he decided to go to the Celestial Star. He would be safe once he entered the Celestial Star. He could gather information there and stay for a while. When he was sure that all the divine ancestors in the sacred abyss were dead, he could think of a way to go back to the third heaven. What delighted him the most was not this. He learned that many races looked like humans. One of them was the human race, and it was one of the 33 races. This information made him less resistant to the region of Infinite Star. There were humans here, and they were powerful ones. He felt a sense of familiarity. It was okay for him to cultivate here for a while. The Celestial Star was far away. If everything went well, it would take him more than half a year. Luli took the scout with him and asked Blood Fairy to control the sacred mountain. He asked the scout about other things, such as where did the powerful races come from and what was special about the region of Infinite Star. The scout's answer shocked Luli. Of the 33 races here, apart from the Wild Race, the other major races and many smaller races came from the universe above the fourth heaven. For example, the Four-Armed Race once dominated a universe above the fourth heaven. Later, when all the universes above the fourth heaven collapsed, they were forced to migrate here. This is not the palace of immortals. This is the refuge of the major races above the fourth heaven. Luli remembered the other 2 galaxies. There must be many major races in those 2 galaxies as well. When a universe is above the fourth heaven collapsed, all the powerful races migrated to these galaxies. The scout did not know the details, and neither did Luli. But he was sure of one thing. There are many shocking secrets in this world. Please remember the domain name of this book. Third Sect Leaders Mobile Version. Chapter 3017. In the endless void, many frigid iron battleships were whooshing across the void. The universes were in a state of chaos. It was a tragic sight. The 2 races were thoroughly enraged. The conflict was already deep. Many died in this war, including several founding patriarchs on both sides. This was something that had not happened in years. Both races were overlords of the region of Infinite Star. Neither could swallow the humiliation. Therefore, they had to keep on fighting until neither side could afford to pay the price. Sometimes this was how things worked. Both sides knew that it was pointless to keep on fighting. Apart from bringing great losses to their own races, there was nothing to gain. That being said, they had to fight. Otherwise, there would be disagreements within the races. The major races of the region of Infinite Star would laugh at them. It was hard to build up a reputation, but easy to destroy it. Without a reputation, a major race would be bullied by other races. The race would decline, and in the end, the race might be wiped out. Therefore, sometimes the race would have to fight on even though they knew it was not good for the race. They had to fight hard to build up the race's reputation and dominance. Because of this war, Lu Li and Sacred Ancestor Tion's journey was smooth. Their destinations were similar, the Flying Celestial Star and the Red Dragon Star. The Red Dragon Star was not far away from the Flying Celestial Star, only half a month's journey. It had been more than 5 months. Lu Li had been flying in the void for 5 months. It had been a quiet journey. With the trace of Tao and the speed of the Sacred Mountain, Lu Li was like a fish in water. The scouts and armies on the way could not see him. Today, his peaceful days were interrupted. When he approached a deserted world, he thought there was nothing there. However, as he was passing by the Sacred Mountain, a black hand reached out. The Sacred Mountain was grabbed by the hand and froze in midair. The Sacred Mountain was powerful. Average warriors could not move it. Back in the days, Sacred Ancestor Yuan tried to grab the Sacred Mountain but failed. He had to use the Blood Demon formation to imprison the Sacred Mountain. But now, a black hand had grabbed the Sacred Mountain? How could Lu Li not be shocked and frightened? He had been careless. Lu Li regretted. He had thought it was a deserted world. He tried to sense no ripples in space. He did not expect that there was a powerful warrior hiding in there. Blood Fairy, make the Sacred Mountain bigger. Lu Li shouted. He did not want to resign himself to death. The Holy Mountain glowed and expanded. Finally, the hand could not hold on to the Holy Mountain anymore. The Holy Mountain broke free. Go! Lu Li yelled. The Holy Mountain flew away like a shooting star. A dark shadow flew out from the ruined region. It was a skinny old man, so skinny that he looked like a skeleton. He had a horn on his head, claws on his hands, dark brown eyes, and golden hair. Although they looked like humans, they were clearly not pure-blooded humans. What treasure is this? After the old man flew out, a strange light flashed in his dark brown eyes. He hesitated for a moment. Then his body turned into a black shadow and turned into a stream of light as he chased after the Holy Mountain. The old man was fast, no slower than the Sacred Mountain. He was hot on Lu Li's heels. Lu Li had no choice but to fly in a straight line as fast as he could. The faster the Sacred Mountain was, the more excited the old man was. Speed alone was a treasure. Therefore, the old man made up his mind to chase after Lu Li. Inevitably, Lu Li's speed in the pursuit of a powerful warrior would attract the attention of scouts and warriors nearby. It is Bone Demon. What is Bone Demon chasing after? That stone is fast. Bone Demon has been gone for 1,000 years. He is back. Go and report this to our race. Bone Demon committed many crimes and offended many major families. Yes, I remember that he offended 2 major races. He is out in the open. If the 2 races know, they will send out powerful warriors to hunt him down. The Holy Rock race and the Four-Armed race are fighting fiercely, and now Bone Demon is back. The barren universe has been quite lively lately. There were many scouts nearby. This time, they gathered in groups of 2s and 3s to watch the fun. The reason why so many scouts appeared in the void was because of the war between the 2 races. They were here to investigate. It had nothing to do with their own races. They were just here to watch the fun. That fast stone attracted many people's attention as well. After all, it must be a treasure if it could fly so fast. It could be a flying artifact with a powerful warrior on board. Lu Li noticed the scouts nearby. He complained at once. The Sacred Mountain was so fast. Even a blind man could tell it was a treasure. He was afraid that powerful warriors would covet it. By then, more and more powerful warriors would come and fight for it. He had no other choice but to fly the sacred mountain away. At the same time, he looked for favorable terrain to see if he could use the Rainyang realm to escape. This old demon was powerful. He must be one of the most powerful even among Saint Kings. If the old demon caught up with him, the loss of the sacred mountain was not a big deal. What was worse was that Lu Li would lose his life. After flying for half a day, Lu Li saw a small planet. Without any hesitation, he flew toward the planet and found a place to hide. Unfortunately, Bone Demon did not hesitate either. He followed Lu Li. Bone Demon was a famous old demon in the barren universe. He was a loner and had no scruples. He did not care about small races because he had no territory, no family, and no people. If he could not win, he would run. He was good at escaping. As long as he could not be killed, then the race would suffer from his crazy revenge. Therefore, for many small races, Bone Demon was not someone they could mess with. Bone Demon knew that this was the territory of small race. Why wouldn't he dare to go in? What could he say when he entered that race? Lu Li soon realized this. This place was not a barren land. Instead, there were many cities and tribes where many strange races resided. When Lu Li and Bone Demon flew down, they alarmed the armies and powerful warriors in this place. But when Bone Demon shouted, "Piss off!" the armies and powerful warriors stopped moving. It's Bone Demon. All the powerful warriors were frightened. None of them dared to move. Bone Demon shouted, "I am here to kill an enemy. It has nothing to do with you. Don't move if you don't want to die." This was a small clan. They did not even have a lot of Saint Kings, so they were not the Bone Demon's opponent even if they worked together. As a result, the clan immediately began to send messages after the Bone Demon's roar. They ordered all the soldiers and experts to stay put, allowing the Bone Demon to rampage and hunt down his enemies. Damn it, Lu Li cursed. He knew it was pointless to stay here. He made up his mind and flew up to leave this place. Bone Demon followed him at once. The powerful warriors of the small races were relieved. They saw Bone Demon off as if he was a god of plague. Please remember this book's original domain name. Third Sect Leader's mobile version. Chapter 3018. One was running and the other was chasing. Lu Li's Holy Mountain and the Bone Demon's speed were almost the same. Therefore, the Bone Demon never caught up. Later on, Lu Li approached another winter iron battleship. It was a powerful warrior of the Holy Rock race. But after they found out that it was the Bone Demon, the winter iron battleship took a detour. The Bone Demon was so famous that the Holy Rock race could not afford to offend him. It was just that they didn't want to provoke a lunatic like him. Lu Li had to keep on running. The Bone Demons behind him kept on releasing all kinds of attacks, trying to stop or crack the Sacred Mountain. However, the Sacred Mountain's defense was simply too strong. The Bone Devil released a few attacks, but he was unable to cause any damage to the Sacred Mountain. This made the Bone Devil even more excited. Such a powerful defense and speed, this treasure was extremely rare. Even he did not have such a treasure. Boom! The Holy Mountain was slapped again. With the help of this force, the Holy Mountain sped up. Lu Li complained to himself. This cannot go on. The Bone Demon was too strong. He must find a place to get rid of him. Lu Li looked around. After flying for more than 4 hours, he found another deserted world. This one was also filled with dark fog. Lu Li didn't know what kind of horrifying beings were inside. When Lu Li flew over, he sensed killing intent from inside. He made up his mind and flew the Sacred Mountain in. Whether this was a dragon's pond or a tiger's den, he had to go in. The Bone Demon stopped outside. He knew about this deserted world. He was not afraid of the dangers inside. What was more important was that there was an old demon living inside, an old demon of the same level as him. The Bone Demon was worried about him. If he went in, he would infuriate the old demon. By then, there would be a fierce battle. The thing was, if he didn't go in, the mountain would be taken over by the old demon. Whatever. The Bone Demon made up his mind. He was worried about the old demon, but the old demon could not kill him. Worst come to worst, they could fight. He had chased after the Holy Mountain for a long time. He didn't want to go back empty-handed. He rushed in after the time for one breath. As soon as he did, a faintly discernible chi and energy swept over. He heard a cold voice. "Bone Demon? What are you doing in my territory? Get out!" The Bone Devil did not stop and continued to fly downwards. At the same time, he shouted, "Old Demon Ox, I'm not here to fight with you today. I'm here to chase after an enemy. I'll kill him and leave immediately. How about it?" "Enemies?" Ox Demon paused for a moment. Then he used his psychic power to scan the holy mountain and saw Lu Li inside. Lu Li shouted at once, "Lord, help me. I know the entrance to a treasure place. This old demon Bone wants me to bring him there, and he killed my brother. As long as you help me defeat old demon Gu, I will immediately inform you of the entrance to the treasure ground." Lu Li was just talking nonsense. This old demon seemed to be quite powerful. If he could fight the Bone Demon, then Lu Li could definitely get away easily. Old Devil Ox really looked like a bull. He was tall and big, and he had horns on his head. His nose was also like a bull's nose. He held a fork in his hand, and he was 3 meters tall. His eyes were like copper bells. His eyes glowed when he heard Lu Li's words. He sent a message, "What land of treasures? It might be the entrance to the ancient sacred land." Lu Li continued to talk nonsense. He bluffed, "Lord, as long as you help me defeat this hateful old demon, I will take you there right away." Ancient sacred land? Is it the relic of the holy race? Ox Demon seemed to be in a daze. He murmured to himself. Lu Li saw that the Bone Demon was coming down. He flew the holy mountain to the back of Ox Demon. At the same time, he said, "Lord, help. The Bone Demon is coming." Old Demon Ox snorted. The triangular fork in his hand grew bigger, and he swept at Lu Li. At the same time, he shouted, "Old Demon Bone, get out of here right now, or I will show you no mercy." Bone Devil was enraged as well. What a stubborn bull. He would make a move at the slightest disagreement. How could he be scared off by Old Demon Ox's words? How could he survive in this region in the future? At once, the two demons began to fight. Lu Li saw two shadows colliding with each other. A surge of horrifying chi swept across, shaking heaven and earth. Even the space over there was cracked. Lu Li was overjoyed. He stealthily moved the holy mountain back. After the time for half an incense stick to burn, Lu Li sped up to the extreme and flew out of the deserted universe. Old Demon Ox, that punk is running away. Bone Devil had been keeping an eye on Lu Li. Now that Lu Li was about to run, Bone Devil said in a hurry, "I am not in the mood to fight you. Move aside. I will go after him. He is an enemy of mine." "Enemy my foot." Old Demon Ox glared at Lu Li and shouted, "You want to go to the relic of the holy race, don't you? Don't even think about it. Enemy? How can a warrior of the holy race be your enemy? Did he kill your entire family? Shame on you. What relic of the holy race? I don't know what you're talking about." Bone Devil was enraged. Many times, he wanted to go after Lu Li. However, the more he wanted to, the more Old Demon Ox would not let him go. Old Demon Ox's physical body ranked top 10 in the Infinite Star region in terms of defense and speed. Bone Devil could not kill Old Demon Ox, nor could he get rid of Old Demon Ox. For a moment, Bone Devil was enraged, but there was nothing he could do. Lu Li had flown out of the deserted universe. He didn't take a detour and went straight to the Celestial Realm. It was pointless to take a detour now. The Celestial Realm was not far away. It would be a victory if he could go in. Along the way, Lu Li was more careful. Whenever there was any fluctuation in space, he would take a detour at once. Many scouts had learned that he was being chased by Bone Devil. The Four-Armed Race and the Holy Rock Race must have received the news as well. But whether or not they would come after him was unknown. Lu Li flew for half a month. There were no more pursuers on the way. He was a bit relieved. It was only a month's journey to the Celestial Realm. He hoped that nothing would go wrong on the way. On the other hand, Sacred Ancestor Tian and the others had a smooth journey as well. Sacred Ancestor Yuan had been weak, but he could help to cover the two Sacred Ancestors' escape. The two Sacred Ancestors were about to arrive at the Celestial Realm. They would arrive at the Red Dragon Star in a bit more northwest. The two sacred ancestors were excited. They didn't expect that the journey would be so peaceful. Now they just had to see if that royal of the Red Dragon race was still alive. A month later, Luli saw a huge planet in the distance. He was overjoyed. This planet must be the Celestial Star. He had made it here alive, and he was safe. Something is wrong. Luli suddenly noticed that there were many battleships wandering in the void up ahead. He didn't see which race they were, but he had a bad feeling. They might be here to stop him. Let's go. Luli steered the holy mountain to the left. He didn't believe that the Celestial Star was so large that they could block off the entire Celestial Star. Please remember the domain name of this book. Third Sect Leaders Mobile Version. Chapter 3019. Luli was right. Those warriors were here for him, and they were his enemies, the Four-Armed Race. Just over half a month ago, the Four-Armed Race and the Sacred Rock Race had stopped fighting. One of the large races had come to a truce in the middle. The two races had both suffered heavy losses from this battle, and there was no benefit to be gained from continuing. Since there were large clans trying to mediate, the two clans stopped fighting. After the armistice, the Four-Armed Race naturally came to find the culprit. The Four-Armed Race had learned that Luli was being hunted by the Bone Demon. Powerful warriors of the Four-Armed Race speculated that Luli and the two divine ancestors were coming to the Celestial Race. Therefore, many powerful warriors and scouts were stationed outside the Celestial Race. The Flying Celestial Star was the safest place in the entire star region of Infinite Star. The 33 major races had an agreement here. Powerful warriors of the Wild Race were stationed here. Anyone who dared to make a move on the Flying Celestial Star would be violating the agreement and would be punished by all the races. Therefore, it was highly likely that Luli and the two sacred ancestors would go to the Flying Celestial Star. However, they could not let them go, or else the Four-Armed Race would be humiliated. If it were not for the fact that Luli's senses were strong and he was cautious, he would have been in trouble. The Holy Mountain was too small, and it did not have a strong presence. It would be hard to find a trace of the Holy Mountain if one was not fast enough. Luli flew the Holy Mountain carefully and tried to find a place with fewer warriors. How could the Four-Armed Race lock down such a large flying celestial star? The Four-Armed Race indeed could not lock down the flying celestial star. They sent out more than 1,000 battleships and many scouts to patrol outside the flying celestial star. The battleships and the scouts formed a web. There were almost no blind spots. It would be difficult to sneak in. More importantly, the entrances to the flying celestial star were guarded by scouts. If any powerful warrior wanted to go in, the scouts would be alerted. Once the scouts sent a message, the powerful warriors could hurry over. Luli flew around for a day and soon realized this. The battleships were fast, and they crossed paths with the scouts. Therefore, it seemed that there were no blind spots. He could approach the planet stealthily by himself. But the problem was that he didn't know where the weak point of the planet's base was. How could he not be discovered by the Four-Armed Race after circling around the planet for half a day? Actually, it was easy to get close to the golden flowing light. The difficult part was finding the entrance. This required time, and this time was enough for the Four-Armed Race's scouts to find him. Luli didn't dare to act rashly. He had to keep on exploring and floating around. After walking for 2 whole days, he found some clues. It seemed like some of the scouts were stationary. They were squatting in certain areas. Shouldn't scouts be roaming around? Crouching in some areas? What was there to crouch in these areas? The entrance. Li's eyes glowed. Apart from the entrance being nearby, there was no other explanation. Luli grinned. After a while, he dashed forward like a sharp sword. At this moment, a warship just happened to leave, and the roaming scout also flew into the distance. There was just a point in time. Luli had the time for 1 incense stick to burn. If he could not find the entrance by then, he would be discovered. He didn't fly on the Holy Mountain. The Holy Mountain was too recognizable, and he would be spotted immediately. Luli transformed into the dragon transformation. In this way, He would look more like an alien race and wouldn't stand out. Before Lu Li got close, he was spotted by the scout. But the scout glanced at Lu Li with confusion. Lu Li seemed to be of the Red Dragon race, but at the same time, he was not. While the scout was wondering, Lu Li's eyes glowed in a golden light. He used a formation, and the scout's soul was trapped. Lu Li slapped the scout, knocked him out, and threw him into the holy mountain. Find it. Lu Li used psychic power to search for the entrance. In a time for a dozen breaths, Lu Li's eyes glowed. There really was an entrance nearby. Move! Lu Li sped up to the extreme. However, as soon as he moved, the space behind him began to tremble. Following that, a powerful warrior walked out from the void. Staring at Lu Li, the warrior shouted, "Stop, or I will make a move." Lu Li looked back. It was a powerful warrior of the four-armed race. Lu Li sneered. He took out the holy mountain and dashed in. Then, he controlled the holy mountain to rush toward the entrance. "It is you, you bastard. Where are you going?" The powerful warrior of the four-armed race had some doubts. But as soon as the holy mountain appeared, he flew into a rage. His arms grew longer and larger as he reached for the holy mountain. He was not powerful enough. The holy mountain trembled, and then he broke free. He snuck into the weak spot of the golden light and vanished. "Woo, woo, woo," the powerful warrior of the four-armed race shouted. From a distance, many battleships approached. 2 hours later, there were 7 or 8 patriarchs gathered here. "That punk," when the patriarch that stopped Lu Li said bitterly. Many major races knew about the interception. They had mobilized so many warriors and powerful warriors, but they could not stop an emperor. The four-armed race was humiliated. "This is not good. Alas, I told you that this is not going to work. Put a scout at each entrance. Isn't this telling him that this is the entrance? What's the point of saying all this now? The news has spread. Our race is at a disadvantage in the war with the Holy Rock race. Now, we are even more humiliated. No, he has to die. Even if he goes to the realm of flying celestial, he must die." The patriarchs sat together and quarreled. But after a long time, they could not come to a conclusion. After waiting for another 2 hours, a warship flew over from afar. Then, an expert flashed over. "Greetings, Patriarch 8. The group of patriarchs bowed. The patriarch walked to the main seat and sat down. He looked around with dignity and said, "Tell me." The patriarchs explained the situation. The patriarchs pondered for a while. One of them said, "Patriarch 8, this punk must die. We can hire some assassins to go in and kill him. We won't admit it anyway. Who could do anything to us?" "Fool," the Patriarch 8 rebuked. "Do you really think everything is flawless? Don't you know how inflexible the desolate race is? If there is evidence, the desolate race will be enraged. Then our race will not be able to survive in the infinite desolate star region." Upon hearing the words desolate race, all the patriarchs' expressions changed slightly. They felt a chill run down their backs. One of the patriarchs hesitated for a moment before asking, "Are we just going to ignore it? Are we going to let this punk go? How can we let him go?" The Patriarch 8 sneered. "Anyone who dares to challenge our race's dignity must die. If we can't do it openly, we will do it secretly. If we can't do it forcefully, we will do it softly. The flying immortal world does not allow violence, but there are many dangerous places in the flying immortal world. We can lure this punk into those dangerous places. After all, this punk must die. Patriarch 16, you will be in charge of this matter. Do you roughly understand what I mean? We can't do it forcefully or directly. As long as there is no evidence, even if the entire infinite desolate star region knows that we killed him, the desolate race will not be able to do anything to us." An elder stepped forward. He understood the Patriarch 8's intentions. He bowed and said, "Patriarch 8, don't worry. I understand what you mean. I will definitely let that punk die a horrible death. I will make sure he will never be able to rise again." Please remember this book's domain name. Third Sect Masters mobile version. Chapter 3020. The Flying Celestial Realm was a very big realm. There were at least 10 third heavens there. It was also the undisputed center of Infinite Region. There were many grotto heavens and blessed lands here, many relics, many treasures, and many dangerous places. There were hundreds of races gathered there, and there was the largest underground black market. There were countless treasures and experts there. It was a prosperous world, and it was a place that countless races in the Infinite Region yearned for. The reason why they wanted to come here was that not everyone could come here. Ordinary warriors did not have the qualifications to live here because the castles in this city were frighteningly expensive. Not to mention buying, even staying in an inn for a month was very expensive. The currency here was not the divine source god stones of the third heaven. Instead, it was a precious celestial Kirin stone, commonly known as Celestial Stone. Currently, only the Desolate race and the 4 large clans had discovered a few Celestial Kirin stone mines in the entire Infinite Region. Hence, the Heaven Kirin stone was accepted by everyone as a common currency. This currency was also set by the Desolate race. The Desolate race was born in this star domain millions of years ago, so they had always used the Heaven Kirin stone as their currency. Although the Flying Immortal world is very big, there are not many cities. 1 Saint city, 10 imperial cities, 100 king cities, a total of 111 cities. Perhaps no one would believe that such a large realm only had 111 cities, but that was the truth. It wasn't that it was difficult to construct a city. It was just that the 33 races had an agreement that the Flying Immortal city could only construct that many cities. Why do you have to do this? This was because the wilderness of the Flying Immortal world was very dangerous. Even an ordinary emperor rank would die if they were unlucky. However, it was absolutely safe inside the city. Moreover, the heaven and earth spiritual energy inside the city was also very dense. The rarer something is, the greater its value. The Flying Celestial world was the center of the entire Infinite Region, but there were only 111 cities there. Therefore, every inch of land in the cities was worth its weight in gold. Owning a house in the city was a symbol of one's status. This was the reason why the 33 clans had controlled the number of cities here. This Flying Immortal world was actually a good place for the 33 races to earn celestial Qilin stones. Every castle and every courtyard could be sold for a high price. Most importantly, there were countless shops in every city, and they could collect a huge amount of taxes every day. Although the 33 super clans were the most powerful clans, the total population of the 33 super clans was less than half of the entire Infinite Region. Controlling the Flying Celestial world was equivalent to controlling a huge gold mine that could bring them endless wealth. Wealth was equivalent to resources. They controlled countless resource-rich lands in Infinite Region, and that was the foundation of the 33 tribes. They used these resources to constantly nurture formidable martial artists. With formidable martial artists, they would be able to guard such a huge territory and ensure that their clans would prosper forever. This was also the reason why the 33 clans had set an agreement that forbade violence within the Flying Celestial world. There were 100 law enforcement teams in this world that patrolled the Flying Immortal world day and night. The ones leading them were experts from the Desolate race. Once anyone was discovered to be using force, they would be killed without mercy, regardless of who it was. Of course, it wasn't that the Flying Immortal world didn't have fights. There were often experts fighting inside. As long as they weren't caught and there was no evidence, it would be fine. If there was evidence, even the 4-armed race's Grand Elder would die without a doubt. The Desolate race was the strongest race in the Infinite Region. It was also the most inflexible and ruthless race. They didn't care what big race you were from or what famous experts you were. If you dare to go against the rules, they would kill you first. In addition, there was another reason why the Flying Celestial world attracted countless races. There were countless treasured lands here, but there were also countless danger zones and countless ruins. For example, some old demons who were nearing the end of their lifespans would like to be buried here. They would then set up many divine rune arrays and deliberately let people charge through to snatch the treasures. This way, their descendants would remember them. The treasures they obtained and the secret skills they created would also be passed down. There were endless opportunities here, but it was also extremely dangerous. This was the center of the infinite region, the flying celestial world. Swish! A stone flew down from the sky and quickly fell into the mountain range below. Before it completely landed, a deafening roar came from the nearby mountain range. Next, a huge monster soared into the sky, roaring as it charged towards the sacred mountain. So powerful, Luli could feel the monster's terrifying chi and blood. It was like a deep pool. It was a reptilian monster with a brown carapace and two huge pincers. At this moment, it was swinging its pincers at the sacred mountain. Boom! The sacred mountain trembled but didn't move down. Strong as the monster was, it could only be at the later stage of the Emperor realm. Naturally, it could not shake the sacred mountain. Luli didn't pay attention to the monster. He used psychic power to check the surroundings. This was a vast mountain range. Apart from the rich Xianqi in heaven and earth, everything else was no different from a mountain in the third heaven. Swish! Luli released a formation and suppressed the monster. He didn't kill the monster. Instead, he dashed out, took out a black armor, and covered his head, revealing only his eyes. He moved forward quickly, looking for a city. He didn't feel safe in the wild. It was better for him to go into a city and get some information. After taking a few steps, he recalled something and released 2 scouts from the sacred mountain. These 2 scouts were from the four-armed race, and they had been knocked unconscious by him. He couldn't use force here. He didn't want to be found out and accused of fighting. Woo-woo, not long after, another monster appeared in front of them. It was slightly weaker than the previous one, but it also had Overlord-tier combat power. Luli didn't kill the monster. He trapped its soul with a formation and moved on. Along the way, there were many beasts of varying strength. The most powerful one could be at the peak of the Emperor realm. Luli had to take out the sacred mountain, or else his physical body wouldn't be able to stand it. The sacred mountain's defense was strong. After one wave, Luli flew away. Half a day later, Luli didn't see any cities. But at this moment, he saw a battleship, a huge cold steel battleship. At first, Luli thought it was the four-armed race. But he sensed that the powerful warriors on the battleship were of different races. He saw a human among them. Luli didn't take out the sacred mountain or run around. He stood on the battleship, keeping a low profile and even bowed slightly. A few strands of divine sense swept over them, but they quickly retracted. The warship continued to tear through the sky without stopping. It is dangerous in the wild. If you have the Heaven Kirin stone, you'd better go to a city. There may be beasts going on a rampage. A voice suddenly came to Luli's mind. Luli was surprised. He looked up and saw a powerful warrior looking at him from the cold steel battlefield. It was the human elder. Luli bowed at once. As a fellow human, he felt a sense of closeness in a foreign land, not to mention that the human elder was giving him advice. End of this chapter. Chapter 30:21. Luli wanted to go to the city as well, but he didn't know where it was. He pondered for a moment before sending a telepathic message. Sir, may I ask which direction this city is? Fly to the northwest for 10 days or half a month. There is a black tortoise city there. By the time Luli heard the voice, the winter iron battleship had already drifted away. Luli was surprised. He could fly for 10 days or half a month. How could the city be so far away? Were there no small cities nearby? With someone pointing the way, Luli didn't wander around aimlessly. He flew straight to the northwest. There were beasts and beasts everywhere. Luli couldn't defeat many of them. Luckily, he had the holy mountain, which was so strong that not even Saint Kings could break it, let alone these beasts. Several days later, Luli didn't run into any other warriors. Apart from the battleship, he didn't run into any other races in the wild. There are so many beasts here. There are so many powerful warriors in the desolate universe. Why don't they kill the beasts? Luli couldn't figure it out. The beasts looked strong, but there were at least more than a dozen Saint Kings on the battleship. Those Saint Kings should have been able to kill the beasts easily. Luli stopped thinking about it. Another 5 days later, he finally found warriors of other races. It was a strange mountain. It was steep and straight. On the mountain, Luli found warriors of hundreds of races. The hundreds of warriors were strange. They were all climbing in the mountain as if they were picking some herbs. Moreover, this mountain seemed to have a very strong gravitational force. It was difficult for them to climb. Luli noticed that many of the hundreds of warriors were lords and 3 were at the Emperor realm. Luli was confused. Since when did Emperor realm warriors have to pick herbs themselves? Luli didn't go over rashly. After all, he was unfamiliar with the place, and he didn't dare to get close to any races. What if he was ambushed and assassinated when he didn't know the situation? Luli took a detour. Several Emperor realm warriors did see him, but they just used psychic power to check and didn't pay much attention. They continued to climb in the mountain. Another 2 days later, Luli found another strange place. It was an abyss, a very deep one. Above and below the abyss, there were many strange races. From the looks of it, it seemed like it was gathering something in the abyss. Moreover, there were several thousand warriors here, and they were clearly divided into more than 10 teams, but they were not in any disorder, nor were they fighting over the divine medicines. They were collecting the divine medicines in a corner and did not interfere with each other. Roar, when Luli passed by, he heard a loud beast roar coming from underground. All the warriors above flew down as if they were working together to fight against the enemy. What a wonderful place! Luli curled his lips and flew on. This time, it was a smooth journey. After a couple of days, he saw a huge city. The walls of this city were thousands of feet tall, and there were all kinds of strange patterns on them. It was obvious that there were extremely powerful divine inscriptions set up on them. There was no army on the city walls, not a single one, because there was a huge white barrier of light above the city walls that enveloped the entire city. There weren't any on the city walls, but there were at the city gates. There was also a group of 12 soldiers, all wearing white battle armor. Their appearances were similar to humans, but they had clearly changed. It was obvious that they were outlanders, and there wasn't a single pure-blooded human among them. Of the 12 soldiers, 11 were at the sub-emperor level, and 1 was at the emperor level. Luli was speechless. Since when were emperor-level warriors reduced to guarding the city gates? Luli strode to the city gate, cupped his fists, and bowed to the emperor-level warrior, and then walked inside. He had just taken a step when a soldier blocked his path and coldly extended a hand, saying, "Token." Luli didn't have any token. He said, "I don't have one. You just got here?" That warrior sneered. Even though Luli was at the emperor level, the warrior didn't seem to think highly of him, nor was he afraid. The warrior reached out his hand again and said, "You want to go into the city? Give me Heaven Kirin stones, 10 a day." Heaven Kirin stones? Luli frowned. He didn't know what that was. He asked after some thoughts, "Lord, what is Heaven Kirin stones?" "I don't have any." "If you don't, go to the Crimson Hill 300 miles to the west of the city to exchange for them." The warrior waved his hand and said, "There is a chamber of commerce there. You must have some treasures, right? You cannot go into the city without Heaven Kirin stones." "Okay, thank you very much." Luli cupped his fists and walked toward the west of the city. The scout didn't tell him that he needed Heaven Kirin stones to go into the city. If he had known, he would have taken the 2 scouts in terspatial rings. They must have Heaven Kirin stones. That being said, he had many treasures. He could sell some of them for tens of thousands of Heaven Kirin stones. In less than an hour, Luli found the Red Summit Mountain. The mountain was easy to find because there was only one mountain here, and it was all alone. On the peak of the mountain was a castle. Clearly, it was the castle of the black market. This place must have a strong background to be able to open an underground black market outside the city. Luli saw people coming in and out. Nobody paid attention to him. Luli walked into the hall and found that it was divided into many side chambers. An old man came to him and asked if Luli was here to buy something or to buy something. Luli didn't even have 1 Heaven Kirin stone. What would he buy? Of course, he would go to a place to sell things. That old man took him to a side chamber and asked him to take out the things he wanted to sell and then appraise them. Luli thought about it and took out some elixirs from his interspatial ring. They were all top-level elixirs at the third heaven, which were valuable. This is Inyan grass, right? It is only 10,000 years old. It is not worth any celestial stones. 100 of them are worth 30 celestial stones. What kind of elixir is this? I have never seen it before, but I can tell it is not that effective. I will give it 10 celestial stones. This elixir is interesting. It is similar to the wind element leaf. These dozens of elixirs can be valued at 50 celestial stones. Luli took out nearly 1,000 celestial stones. The old man estimated that it was only slightly more than 100 celestial stones. Luli was stunned. He was not in a hurry to sell. Instead, he took out a sovereign weapon and asked, "How much is this weapon worth?" "Sovereign weapon?" The old man glanced at it, not showing any interest. He waved his hand and said, 1,000 celestial stones. Your weapon has not been nurtured for a long time. It is not worth any celestial stones. Luli was dumbfounded. A sovereign weapon could only stay in the city for 100 days? Was the city a place for people to live? He was a sovereign realm warrior. If he sold all the average treasures he had, he wouldn't be able to stay in the city for more than a few years. Luli was hesitating. The old man grinned and said, "Young man, is this your first time in the realm of flying celestial?" Luli nodded and asked, "Sir, how come the cities of the realm of flying celestial are so expensive? It costs 10 celestial stones a day to enter the city? How could an ordinary person bear it?" "You said ordinary people. Of course, they cannot afford it." The old man was not a pure-blooded human being. There were red stripes on his forehead, his eyes were purple, his nose was hooked, and his ears were curved. He said slowly, "If you want to stay in the city, you have to find a way to buy a residence. Without a residence, not even a martial saint can survive. Therefore, if you want to stay in the city for a long time, you have to buy a residence." "How many celestial stones do I need to buy a residence?" Luli asked with curiosity. "Not expensive." The old man grinned and said, "In a royal city like the Black Tortoise City, the smallest residence is 100,000 celestial stones. The imperial city is 10 times more expensive. If you want to buy a manor in the sacred city, it will cost at least 10 million celestial stones." 10 million? Luli was dumbfounded. One sovereign weapon was only 1,000 celestial stones. If he wanted a manor in the sacred city, he would have to trade 10,000 sovereign weapons? If there was nothing wrong with his brain, he wouldn't do such a stupid thing. End of this chapter. That you're tuning in to the Warrior Lore YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.